You are listening to the audio novel A Year with Mr. Arrogant, sponsored by Tale Treasury. Chapter 1. A week earlier, Ace. I don't care what you have to say, son. I'm picking a wife for you, and that's that. My father, Ron Daniels, snapped, though his voice strained to stay calm. My eyes shifted to my mother, who stood behind him, gently massaging his shoulders in a quiet attempt to keep him from exploding. I'm afraid your father's right, son, she sighed as she walked over to my side of the desk. We don't want you bringing a new girl home every week, or staying out late. Her hands covered mine, and I knew she felt it, the way they trembled with frustration. I'm already 18. I can do whatever I want, I growled, standing abruptly. My father's face twisted in disbelief, but I didn't care. I glanced back at my mother one last time. Her expression, God, it looked like her heart had just sunk to the floor. Why, you ungrateful little son of a... Dad shouted, but I was already out the door. I loved my parents more than anything, but marrying someone just because they said so, out of nowhere, that wasn't something I could or would accept. A week later, Abrielle. Hey, scholar. The voice rang out sharp and sugary. Cassidy. Platinum blonde. Fake smile. Walking stereotype. She said it loud enough for the entire hallway to hear. Like it was some kind of insult. I had just transferred to Harlock Academy on a scholarship, and apparently that made me the punchline of the week. Why? Because my family wasn't rich? We were middle class, but that still seemed like dirt compared to the private jet crew strutting around this place. God, I hated it already. Every hallway felt like a jungle full of snobby rich kids waiting to pounce. I swear, if I had a giant lawnmower, I'd clear the whole corridor, especially Cassidy and her little blonde army. Yeah, I know it sounds violent. Maybe a little psychotic, but still. The only reason I hadn't packed up and bolted was because my parents were so proud of me. They beamed when I got accepted, said I was their miracle girl. Even bought me a brand new iPhone. I couldn't let them down, not now. Funny thing is, I used to be popular back at West Hill High. People actually liked me. Here, I was nobody. Scratch that, less than nobody. They could all seriously kiss my... The bell shrieked through the halls and suddenly everyone scattered. I sighed, slung my bag over my shoulder, and headed to math class. As soon as I walked in, I felt it. 25 pairs of eyes staring me down, judging, whispering, laughing. What the hell were they laughing at? Excuse me? A soft voice pulled me out of my rising irritation. I turned slightly to see a brown-haired girl with gentle baby blue eyes tapping my shoulder. I must have glared a little too hard because she flinched. There's a paper. Here, she stammered, then reached behind me and peeled something off the back of my shirt. Chapter 2. I woke up pounding with a brutal headache. Blinking against the sunlight sneaking through the blinds, I dragged myself out of bed and shuffled toward the bathroom across the hall. I really needed my own bathroom, more privacy, more time to wake up without the world crashing in. Just as I reached for the doorknob, voices floated up from downstairs. Strange. My parents usually slept in after their long shifts. Curious, I crept down the stairs, careful not to make a sound. We hope you'll make a decision soon. It hurts to see our son behaving this way, a woman's voice said softly. We understand, but are you sure Abrielle can change him? Mom replied quietly. Change him? What were they talking about? I leaned closer to the doorway, heart pounding, and then the floor creaked beneath me, loud enough to betray my hiding spot. Great, stupid old house. Elle? Honey, come down, please, Mom called. I sighed, lowered my shoulders, and stepped into the living room. A sharply dressed couple sat there, the man in a navy suit, the woman in a vintage dress. Both looked like they belonged in a magazine, late 30s, early 40s, with that perfect air of confidence. But it was their eyes that stopped me. The man's brown hair and piercing blue eyes felt incredibly familiar. Come, sit, Dad said, patting the couch beside him. Their faces were serious, nervous even. What's going on? I asked, eyeing the couple and then my parents. She's absolutely stunning, the woman gushed, clapping her hands together like a kid on Christmas morning. The man nodded, smiling smoothly. I was 5'10", dark brown hair, blue eyes, normal enough, but apparently I was something special to them. I always wanted her to model, but I wasn't sure where to start, Mom chuckled nervously. Well, I think we can help with that. the man said. Dad smiled uncertainly. This is Ron and Lori Daniels. They own a chain of luxury hotels. Wait, Daniels? Do you have a daughter named Jadine Daniels? I asked, raising an eyebrow. Why, yes. Do you know her, sweetie? Lori asked, eyes sparkling. We actually met yesterday, I said, trying to stay calm but wondering where this was going. Well, that's great, Ron said, standing. But we should be going. Your parents will explain everything. ... They exchanged smiles, said their goodbyes, and were gone. I folded my arms, waiting for the explanation. Dad motioned for me to sit. You might want to sit down for this. I obeyed. Something big was coming. We love you and we're not giving you away, Mom began softly. Okay, that sounded ominous. Mr. Daniels wants you to marry his son, Ace Daniels, Dad said without missing a beat. What? I jumped up, shouting loud enough to wake the entire neighborhood. Lower your voice. You'll wake Jazzy, Mom hissed, ushering me back to my seat. I sat, heart hammering, mouth dry as a desert. This marriage is temporary, just 1 year, Mom explained. Mr. and Mrs. Daniels want you to watch over Ace, help him settle down, be the kind of wife who might tame his playboy ways. I exhaled slowly. Temporary. That word softened the blow a little. Like babysitting? I asked, eyebrows raised. In a way, Mom said. Mr. Daniels thinks if Ace is married, he'll become responsible. Dad nodded. He told us about how Ace picked up your books, said it was the first helpful thing he'd done in ages. My eyes went wide. That arrogant jerk was Ace, and Jadine was related to him? Mom gave me a look. Remember, it's only temporary. I shot back. You want me to say yes? They stayed silent. That said it all. Unbelievable. Think of the honor, helping a billionaire family, Dad said, like it was a selling point. Dad, you're the last person I'd expect to push this. You stalked my last boyfriend. And now you want me to marry a stranger? Tears stung my eyes, and I ran upstairs, leaving their calls behind. It'd take time to decide, but the answer was clear. No, even if it was just temporary. At school, my face was a warning sign, don't mess with me. In my head, I made a list. Pros: control over Ace. Maybe get revenge on Cassidy and her plastic gang by being in their class. Make my parents proud. Live in a huge house. Benefit from their wealth, though that felt selfish. Cons: everyone would hate me for marrying Ace. Being around Ace. Surrounded by rich snobs. Endless social parties. Actually becoming a wife. The list balanced perfectly, but saying no felt like upsetting the whole world. Lost in thought, I bumped into someone. Again. Looking up, I met his cold, emotionless stare. Aren't you gonna blame me this time? He asked bluntly. I was caught off guard. His messy hair, electric blue eyes. Those lips 6'3" of pure trouble. I know I'm good looking. Can you stop staring? He frowned. I scoffed. Whatever. Whatever. That's what you have for your future husband? His smirk was pure challenge. I gaped. He knew? How? I stammered. My dad told me after seeing our little car mishap, he said, annoyed. Since neither of us wants this, you should say no. You're the last person I want to be seen with. Ouch, that was harsh. Cold. Cruel. But I'd made up my mind. I was going to make his life hell. Just because he said so. Sweet revenge was coming. Chapter 3. Abrielle. The Daniels Hotel was overwhelmingly huge. Of course, this was the headquarters. Rich couples and families streamed in and out through the grand glass doors, which the doormen opened and closed with effortless grace. On either side of the walkway, large pots of trees and flowers lined the path, bursting with color and life. The hotel was so fancy that even at the entrance, magnificent chandeliers hung from the ceiling, sparkling like stars. I stepped forward, and the men on each side opened the doors with welcoming smiles. My eyes widened as the foyer revealed itself, a breathtaking blend of authentic elegance and the highest quality craftsmanship. It felt like a home away from home. The walls were painted in warm, creamy tones with rich browns and shimmering gold accents. The floor was polished granite, patterned in intricate designs that shifted in different areas. One word summed it up perfectly: luxurious. I made my way toward the front desk, where a woman tapped her fingers on the counter, her eyes lazily glued to the computer screen. "Excuse me," I called softly, catching her attention. Immediately she stood up, her entire demeanor changing as a bright smile replaced the bored look. I blinked, surprised. Maybe they trained their employees to switch personalities on command? "Hello, how may I help you?" she asked cheerfully. Yeah, I came to see Mr. Daniels," I said, forcing a faint smile. "Do you have an appointment?" she questioned, already settling back into her chair. "No, but it's really important. You see, Mr. and Mrs. Daniels came to my house yesterday, and I found out they want me to marry their son," I confessed, realizing how ridiculous it sounded the moment the words left my mouth. "Right. Don't we all just want to marry young Master Daniels?" she said with a sneer, her tone dripping with disgust. "Young Master Daniels? Please." What was with these employees? They went from sweet to snarky in seconds. "I'm telling the truth," I insisted. "Look, you better run along before I She didn't finish her sentence before my name was called. I glanced over my shoulder and saw Mr. Daniels himself approaching, flanked by 2 imposing bodyguards on each side. The lady immediately stood and bowed. I gave her a smug smile that clearly said, "Ha, I told you so." "I knew you'd come sooner or later," Ron Daniels smiled warmly. "Well, I've made my decision." I half-heartedly returned the smile. "Let's head to my office and talk," he said, leading the way to the elevator. I glanced back at the lady, innocently sticking out my tongue while mentally laughing at her frustrated expression. The bodyguards standing near us made me a little uneasy, just because of their sheer size and serious demeanor. When we arrived at Ron's office, my mouth dropped open. How big did an office need to be? A massive desk stood in front of 2 parallel couches, and one entire wall was made of 8-foot-tall glass windows overlooking the city. "Please, have a seat," Ron invited, already settling on one of the couches. I nodded and sat opposite him. A woman quietly entered, setting down 2 cups of tea before bowing and leaving. "I'm sure you have some lovely news for me," Ron asked with a raised brow. "Yes," I replied, nervous but determined. "It didn't take me long to realize that, no offense, but your son needs help." Ron laughed. "Nonsense, we all know he needs help growing up." "Can I ask why?" I pressed. "Of course. Ever since Ace was a boy, he's always believed he was the best of the best. That attitude guided everything. He thought he knew more than anyone else, but he still knew how to keep up appearances. Being heir to the hotel empire, that confidence helped him grow the business. But you want to fix the worst parts of him," I finished, raising an eyebrow. "Exactly. His carefree, womanizing side," Ron said with a sigh. A silence fell between us, and then I finally spoke my mind. "I'll help, since it's only temporary." A smile spread across Mr. Daniels' face. "That's great, but there are a few things I want you to do." My stomach dropped, suddenly nervous. "You'll live with him in a separate house. Act like a couple at public events, and here's the best part. I'm letting you boss him around if he steps out of line." "Wait, live with him? Just the 2 of us?" I exclaimed. "Yes. Though there will be servants, of course," he said with a smile. "I don't have to sleep with him or anything, right?" I blurted, needing to be sure. "No, but remember, you do have to act like a wife," he chuckled. I took a sip of tea, feeling my mouth rehydrate. Thinking it over, it didn't sound so bad. As long as it was just acting and nothing more, I was fine with that. "Ace, Justin, that is not how you bend a ball. Do you want to win the state championship or not?" I shouted at my best friend Justin. We were on the soccer field, practicing hard for the upcoming state championships, the gateway to nationals. "Dude, calm down. Not all of us can bend it like Beckham," he laughed. I rolled my eyes, placed a soccer ball on the penalty spot, stepped back, and ran toward it. With a smooth kick, I bent the ball perfectly into the 90-degree corner of the goal, showing off a little. That's how it's done. Now keep moving. We have to practice hard, I yelled. I'd been team captain since freshman year. Without me, these guys wouldn't have made it to state every year. The hottest girls in school cheered from the sidelines. Too bad we didn't have cheerleaders for soccer. That would have been a nice bonus. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I spotted my sister coming down the stadium stairs with the girl I didn't want to see, Abrielle. My sister smiled sweetly at me, but I knew that smile was a mask. She was a master manipulator. I'd grown up with her, a prankster who always put on an innocent face when I tattled, and somehow I'd end up in trouble instead. I glanced at Abrielle, who seemed lost in thought, but definitely scheming. Why on earth did she tell my dad she wanted to marry me? Didn't she hate me? Honestly, she wasn't that pretty, except for her legs. As long as no one knew about us being engaged, I was okay. Abrielle, I watched Ace look away from Jadine and me with a scowl, like he wanted nothing to do with me. His dad must have told him everything quickly. Last night, I'd thought of every way to boss him around, and the expression on his face right now made me grin. Ooh, this was going to be fun, messing with a rich kid. I can't believe we're going to be sisters, Jadine screeched in my ear. Shh, keep it down. We can't let anyone know yet. I frantically covered her mouth. Cassidy and her gang were already staring at us, along with the soccer players. Shit, run. I pushed Jadine as Cassidy came toward us. We sprinted up the stadium stairs. Our stadium was built into the ground like a bowl, so we tried to get as far away as possible before they caught up, if they even were following us. Why don't you want people to know yet? Jadine asked, catching her breath. Because I don't want it to sound like a rumor. When we tell the press all at once, it'll have more impact, I explained, smiling. I love you like a sister already, she said, hugging me tightly. I was only a few months older than her. Listen, I have to go, but see you tomorrow at my house, she said, skipping away with waves. That's right. Tomorrow was Saturday, and I'd be sleeping over at Jadine's. I headed to my car and unlocked it, but before I could open the door fully, someone slammed it shut again. I turned around, ready to yell, but Ace was right there, his hand covering my mouth. I am so dead. Look, I don't know what you're planning, but why did you say yes? He whispered, his face dangerously close to mine, close enough to kiss. Because you need help, I spat, jerking my head back and trying to push him away, but he stayed firm. He stared at me for a long moment, trying to read my expression. Fine, he said, a crooked smile forming. You want a husband? Then I'll give you a husband. Chapter 4, Abrielle. I was still stunned by what Ace said, that he'd give me a husband. What did that even mean? Was he really going to play along? All I wanted was to mess with him a little, make him miserable for how rudely he treated me. What kind of guy straight up tells a girl he wouldn't want to be seen with her? Obviously Ace. Hopefully he wouldn't be there tomorrow when I went over to his house. Jade, my nickname for Jadine, stared at me like she was ready to devour me. One hand holding a cordless pink curling iron, the other a facial mask pack. What are you doing with those? I asked, trying to lean back on the couch as she inched closer. We're going to have a little makeover, she smiled wickedly. No, I screamed. Stop struggling, or I'll burn you to death. She snapped, suddenly switching personalities. That was the scary part about her, this evil streak hidden under all that sweetness. I stayed still, knowing I couldn't win. Besides, a makeover wouldn't hurt. I used to do these with friends during sleepovers. While Jade worked on my hair, I kept the mask on my face. It actually felt relaxing, like a real salon. Finished, Jade squealed, excited after 3 hours of work. Sheesh, a little makeover? More like complete makeover hell. She'd done my hair, makeup, even redone my eyebrows, dressed me up like a doll. Did I mention she made me try on so many dresses? If she spent this much time, I'd better look like a goddess. She covered my eyes and led me to the mirror-covered closet doors. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Jane squealed again. Geez, Will you stop? Mouth wide open, staring at the girl in the mirror. See? You look like a goddess, Jade giggled. My dark brown hair fell in loose curls. I looked like I wasn't wearing makeup, aside from cherry pink lipstick, but I knew better. My skin glowed naturally. I wore a fitted, black satin mini dress that showed off my legs perfectly. The sweetheart neckline and modest back fell just below my shoulder blades. The top looked like a bandeau, fitting snugly. The heels were black glitter 4-inch pumps. Cute and edgy. You're one hell of a makeover artist, I said, fighting tears. Don't get emotional. You'll ruin your makeup, Jade smiled, opening her arms for a hug. I bent down a bit to hug her. I'm 4 inches taller. Now let's head downstairs. My mom wants to see how you look, she said, grabbing my hand and pulling me out. Wait, Ace isn't here, is he? I asked, holding back. No, he's at soccer practice, she said, dragging me forward, nearly tripping me. We reached the backyard patio, and suddenly I froze. Hundreds of familiar faces stared at me. The same people who'd tormented me since day one at Harlock Academy. Cassidy was there too, arms wrapped around Ace's arm. He gave me a mischievous grin. Wait, Ace? I thought he was at practice? His whole team was here, eyes glued to me. Ace pushed off Cassidy's arms and walked over, surprisingly gentle as he put his arm around me and looked down with a lovesick expression. Clearly fake. Who's the hottie? Someone whistled. Hottie? Couldn't they recognize me? Hello, it's Abrielle Caldwell, the girl you all picked on. I waved mentally. He's beautiful. Please don't call her hot, someone said, rubbing my arm. I wanted to rip it off. Liar, another guy whistled. Nice legs. I wanted to move, but I was like a deer in headlights. Everyone, this is Abrielle Caldwell. Don't you know her from school? Ace acted confused. Some gasped, some laughed. Was he trying to humiliate me? Did you get surgery or Botox or something? Cassidy laughed. The only one here who'd get Botox is you, I snapped, making a few oohs and even hearing Ace chuckle. You bitch! Why do you have your arms around that tramp? Cassidy shouted. Calm down, Ace said, annoyed. I brought you all here to tell you Elle and I are engaged. Everyone gasped, then laughed again. I gasped at how he used my nickname. You're kidding, right? You're the king of womanizing, a blonde guy named Justin cried out. And you pick Abrielle? This has to be a joke. I wasn't strong enough. Tears fell. Angry, I shoved Ace away and ran in my heels. Jade called after me, but I was mad at her for lying and dragging me out. I tripped, stayed on the cold floor, crying. Abrielle, I'm sorry. I didn't know it would turn out like this. Jade caught up and knelt. Why bring me out there? You know they hate me, I shouted. I wanted everyone to know you're my sister-in-law, she said regretfully. Anyway, it was Ace's party. Ace, of course. It made sense. He wanted to humiliate me, to make me change my mind. But the more he tried, the more I planned my move. Let the games begin, asshole. Dress me up so beautiful I could be mistaken for a dream, I told Jade, who nodded, curious. After the fiasco, I told Mr. and Mrs. Daniels I wanted to announce our marriage live on TV. They were surprised, but thought I was already in love with Ace. Huh. Yeah, right. They agreed to do it Sunday at noon. If he wanted a good husband, I'd be an even better wife. I smiled at the thought of humiliating him. You look scary, Jade frowned, fixing my makeup. Well, no more Miss Nice Girl, I said. Jade jumped. An hour later, Jade finished with a winning smile. I turned to the mirror. An angel stared back. You have the hands of an angel, I told her, hugging her. Thanks. Now, what's your little plan? She asked. Nope. You'll have to watch live, I smirked. I wore a flirty white cocktail dress with a lacy bodice, matching bow-front peep-toe heels. Jade styled my hair in romantic curls. My makeup was simple and natural, with cherry blossom lipstick. Ace. I paced, wondering what Abrielle was up to. I told Dad we'd reveal our marriage in a few weeks. Now, she wanted to tell the press today? Son, sit still, Mom said as we waited in a room behind the conference. I ignored her, pacing. Keep calm, Ace. You can handle anything. From the corner of my eye, I saw someone enter. Abrielle, yo, I started, mouth hanging open. She was a goddess. Yesterday she was beautiful, but today, breathtaking. Son, it's rude to stare. If you want to say how beautiful she is, just tell her. Dad chuckled as my parents approached her. She smirked and winked at me. What happened to the girl everyone picked on? Her personality changed completely. Ace, keep your ground. Don't let her overpower you. I gave her a warm smile and approached. She looked surprised. Just what I needed. May I speak to my fiancé alone? Mother, father? I asked, still smiling. Of course. Good luck. Mom squealed like a fangirl as they left. I trapped Abrielle against the wall. She gasped. Don't do or say anything out of line. Keep your mouth shut and let me talk, I growled, staring into her crystal blue eyes. Of course, dear, she smiled, tapping my cheek. I scowled, knowing she was lying. We walked onto the small stage and sat at the table, facing reporters. Good afternoon. Before we start, we'll take only a few questions, I said, holding Abrielle's small hand, just for show. Mr. Daniels, where did you meet Miss Caldwell? A stubby man asked. When I first saw how gorgeous Elle was at a restaurant, our eyes met. I realized she'd been staring at me for a while. I went over, and the rest is history, I said truthfully. Abrielle squeezed my hand. Abrielle, tell us what you thought of Mr. Daniels when you first met him, a woman with bright red lipstick asked. I kind of fell in love. Normally, I don't believe in love at first sight, but he took my breath away, Elle calmly answered, satisfying the reporters. Lie or not, it worked. One question for both of you. How much do you know about each other? A man shouted. I froze, but caught the smile on Abrielle's face. Ha! She doesn't know much about me. She's told me a lot. His favorite color is blue. The funniest part? He used to put on girls' clothes at 3 and did runway shows. She laughed. The women gasped. Others jotted notes. I squeezed her hand, keeping my smile. How much do you know, Abrielle? The same man asked. Great. I knew nothing. I stammered. Faces grew curious. I couldn't lie, especially after what she said. Oops, sorry, Abrielle cried, and I felt something wet on my pants. She'd accidentally spilled water on me. No more questions. Thank you, I snapped, pushing her out. She left as we left, but I was furious. What the hell was that? I shouted, stepping toward her. She stopped laughing, stepping back, looking guilty. What? It was an accident, she stammered, hitting the wall. I punched beside her head, making her flinch. You messed with the wrong guy, I growled. But you did the same thing, she started. I cut her off with something even we didn't expect. I kissed her. Why? Simple. The more she falls for me, the less she'll mess with me. Like I said, I'll give her a husband. It's not like I'll fall for her. Chapter 5. Abrielle. He pulled away from me and gazed at me for a few seconds, probably trying to read my reaction. I couldn't even speak, just kept thinking, what just happened? His lips, his touch, his scent, his taste, all of it made me want more, but I knew I had to stand my ground. I still didn't like his arrogance, otherwise he'd end up controlling me completely. Ace finally turned and walked toward the exit. My eyes followed him, and I wanted to say something, but I kept my mouth shut. If I said anything now, he'd just assume something more. 1 month later, I looked up at the villa I'd be living in with him. This entire school week, I was surprised no one said much to me, except Cassidy. Her little group stayed quiet, but she didn't. I didn't even get why she was mad. It's not like I was stealing Ace from her. Please, he's the last guy I'd try to keep. Though something told me Ace didn't even like her that way. Still, I stood outside, gaping at the glass-heavy modern villa, completely distracted, until, "Let's go, darling," a voice whispered into my ear. "Ace," I shouted, smacking him with my tote bag as he laughed and walked to the front door. "Hey, that's how you treat your soon-to-be husband?" he joked. "If you keep doing things like that, then yes," I snapped, stomping toward the entrance. As soon as he opened the door, a warm breeze greeted us. The interior looked even better than the outside. The grand living room had soaring ceilings, sleek furniture, a massive stone fireplace, and an entire wall of glass showcasing a lake and distant mountains. A lake? "You never told me about the view," I said, eyes wide. "You never gave me a chance to tell you. Every time I tried, you ran off." He rolled his eyes. "Would you stop doing that?" I snapped, then paused, nearly mentioning the kiss. He caught on quick. "What? You thought I was going to kiss you again?" he teased with a smirk. He inched closer, just like last time. My heart raced. His fitted white t-shirt revealed more of those muscles, and the way he looked at me, dangerous. No one else was here, just the two of us. I couldn't look away from his lips, or that tall-built frame. His body brushed against mine, and I panicked. I pushed him away and ran into the nearest room, slamming and locking the door behind me. I slid down to the floor, hugging my knees. "Don't let him get to you," I kept repeating to myself. This was going to be harder than I thought. A whole year of this. Knock, knock. "Al, I was just kidding. Come out," he said with a sigh. "Don't call me that," I shouted. Okay, just come out. I won't do anything." A lock clicked. He pushed the door open and knocked me over. "What is wrong with you?" I stood, brushing myself off. "Come on, don't be like this," he said playfully. "Why not? Just seeing your face irritates me." "Well, you're the one who agreed to marry me, remember?" He raised his voice too. That shut me up. He was right. Why did I agree to this? Still, he shouldn't play games or say those sweet things he doesn't mean. "Sorry," I muttered. A moment passed. "You're getting more interesting by the day." He smiled and turned to leave, but then he peeked back in. "Oh, by the way, that's our bedroom." "Our bedroom? What do you mean?" I chased after him. "That's the master suite. The guest bedroom's not set up yet," he said calmly. "But there's like 100 rooms in this place." "And who's going to use them?" he countered. I didn't have a comeback. "Besides, we're engaged. We should be sleeping in the same room by now," he smirked. "Fine, then I'm sleeping on the couch," I huffed. "Ace." She glared at me from the opposite couch, lips pouting and forehead scrunched. It was adorable. I used to think she wasn't my type, but the more I looked, the more I realized she could pass for a model. No question. The thin floral dress she wore hugged her in all the right places. She was like a dream. And the more I teased her, the more I enjoyed it. Her reactions made me want to mess with her even more. Suddenly she chuckled, and that's when I realized my stomach had growled. "What? I'm hungry," I said coolly. "Then go make something," she teased. "I don't know how to cook," I muttered. She burst into laughter. "Oh, right. You probably had a private chef growing up." "So?" I raised a brow. "Well, I'll make us dinner. I'm a bit hungry too," she smiled gently, biting her lip before heading to the kitchen. I followed and watched her light up as she took in the kitchen. "It's like a chef's dream," she whispered, trailing her fingers along the kitchen island. "You like cooking?" "I enjoy it," she replied softly. "Great. So what are we having, darling?" I grinned. "Do you have to call me that?" she muttered, opening the fridge. "How does Italian sound?" she asked, still half buried in the fridge. "Italian sounds amazing," I said, watching her the entire time. She caught me staring. "Ace," she frowned, arms crossed. "Oh, yeah, Italian. Perfect," I replied with a sheepish smile. She rolled her eyes and started cooking. I watched her move like she was in her element, totally focused and smiling. Half an hour later, she proudly set the dish in front of me. "Elle, I frowned. Yeah? Why'd you only make one serving? I asked, puzzled. She blinked. Oh no, I didn't realize. You were thinking of me, weren't you? I teased. No, there wasn't enough for two, she blushed and looked away. Then want a bite? I swirled the fork and raised it to my mouth, pausing to glance at her. Just eat already, she huffed. One bite and I was hooked. The flavor was rich and comforting, full of herbs and spices. I couldn't stop eating. This is incredible, I said, then paused, remembering she hadn't eaten. Come here. Why? Just come, I said again. She cautiously walked over. I pulled her gently onto the stool across from me and held out the fork for her. She hesitated, then took a bite. Isn't this how engaged couples should act? I smiled. She swallowed. So, you're acting? What did you think No, I was just asking, she said quickly, getting up and leaving the kitchen. Of course she'd react like that. Elle really was fascinating. Later, I walked into the living room and found her curled up with a pillow on the couch, already asleep. She looked peaceful, like she belonged in a dream. I knelt beside her and gently brushed away a strand of hair. She stirred, blinking up at me. What are you doing? She mumbled. Time for bed, I whispered, picking her up bridal style. Ace, put me down. I don't want to go to bed. I just laughed, carrying her upstairs and kicking the door open like we were already made. It's Daniels, she shouted, her fists pounding my chest, though her effort was weak. I set her down on the giant bed and locked the door behind me. Why'd you lock it? She asked, still breathless. So you won't sneak off to the couch. She stared at me, confused. Fine, but stay on your side. She yanked the blanket and lay down with a frustrated huff. I scooted to the edge. I would, if you'd stop stealing the blanket. She groaned, tossed the covers back over me, and lay back down. Oh, Elle, living with you is going to be very interesting. Chapter 6. Abrielle. I woke up feeling weight pressing down on me, then realized I was sleeping in the same bed as Ace. His arm was wrapped around me, his leg tangled with mine, and his warm breath tickled my neck. My eyes fluttered open, and there he was, half his body pinning me in place. His peaceful, handsome sleeping face made me pause, but this wasn't the time to admire him. How did we even end up in the middle of the bed? It could fit 20 people. Yet here we were, tangled up like this. Ace! I shouted, making him stir and groan sleepily. Get off me! I shouted again, trying to push him, but he barely moved and instead blinked open his bright blue eyes. Well, good morning to you too, he said sarcastically, finally rolling off me and onto his back. I jumped out of bed and crossed my arms, glaring at him. Why didn't you stay on your side? I demanded, only to notice he had taken off his shirt. My eyes betrayed me. He had abs any girl would admire, and those biceps. Oh my gosh, was I dreaming? He looked like a walking ad for temptation. Shouldn't I be asking you the same thing? He said with a raised brow, running his hand through his tousled blonde hair, making those muscles flex even more. I forced myself to look away and rushed into the bathroom, shutting the door and leaning against it. Great. How was I supposed to shower with him just outside? I spun around to lock the door, only to find it didn't have one. Just a fancy crystal doorknob. Seriously, why is there no lock? On this door? I shouted, cracking the door open just as he started walking over. I slammed it shut and leaned my weight against it, but he easily pushed through, sending me stumbling back. Why should there be one? He asked, walking toward the sink and grabbing his toothbrush. Because we need privacy, I snapped while he added toothpaste. I don't see why. We're going to be married anyway, he said with that annoying grin before brushing his teeth. You and I barely know each other, I replied, arms crossed. So? Then we'll get to know each other, he mumbled. Please, it's not like we're stuck with each other forever, I smirked. What? He said, puzzled. My eyes widened. Wait, your dad didn't tell you we're only together for a year? He shook his head, confused. Ace, please, it's not like we're stuck together forever, she said, grinning. I looked at her, completely thrown. What was she talking about? I thought this marriage was for real. That's why my dad wanted it. Wait, your dad didn't tell you that it's only for a year? She said again. I shook my head. Fantastic. So she knew something I didn't. Great. I'd have to talk to my dad. So it's only temporary? I muttered under my breath. What? She asked, dropping her arms. Nothing, I said quickly, rinsing my mouth. I'm taking a shower. You can stay if you want, or join me, I added playfully. Her startled expression made me laugh as she bolted out. Later that day, I arrived at my family's mansion. The housekeepers greeted me as I walked the endless marble halls. Our home was massive, filled with art, indoor plants, and pretty much every entertainment room you could imagine. I headed for the elevator. Yeah, our house was that big. The third floor was where all the home offices, studios, and Giselle's dance room were located. Ace, a sweet little voice called out as I walked down the hall. My 3-year-old sister Giselle came running, dressed in a pink tutu, her brown hair tied up neatly. She jumped into my arms. How are you, Elle? I asked, using the nickname I'd always given her. But now that name also reminded me of Abrielle. One Elle was my baby sister, the other was confusing. I'm good. Guess what? She said, squealed. What? I smiled as our mom walked up and kissed my cheek. I can do a pirouette. Giselle laughed. Show me later, okay? I need to talk to Dad first. I reached his office door and handed her to Mom. So how are you and Abrielle? Mom asked, curious. She's amazing, I replied casually. Are you being honest? She asked gently. I nodded, then knocked on Dad's office door. Come in, his voice called. I stepped in and sat down across from him. A butler brought me tea. So, what's this about being with Abrielle for only a year? I asked. His face froze. How did you find out? He asked, sipping from his cup. A little birdie told me. I leaned back, watching him squirm. Finally, he sighed. Yes, it's only a year. But you should know, the year doesn't officially start until the two of you share a kiss at the wedding. All right, I nodded. Clearly, he was stalling. He knew we'd be living together for a few weeks before the wedding, and now I knew he was hiding it from me. That night, I got home late. It felt good to go out again, just for a while. The lights were still on, but the housekeepers were gone. Was she still up at midnight? I checked the living room, empty. Then walked into the kitchen, where a note was stuck to the fridge. If you're hungry, I made dinner for you. I smiled. She sounded like a real wife already. I warmed up the food and took a bite. And wow, it wasn't just delicious. It was heartfelt. Her cooking had soul. It wasn't fancy, but it was deep. Real. She might just win me over with this. When I finished, I found her already asleep in bed, curled up on her side. What caught my attention was how she was only in a tank top and panties. Did she forget I lived here too? My eyes trailed over her. Light tan skin, long smooth legs, soft curves. She was something else. I snapped out of it and walked over quietly, pulling the covers over her. As I did, she grabbed my wrist, her eyes barely opening. Ace, she whispered, then drifted back to sleep, releasing me. I smiled and shook my head, walking to my side of the bed. I stripped down to my boxers, crawled in, and noticed how far apart we were. With a sigh, I turned off the bedside lamp. Tomorrow started a new week of school, and for the first time, I was actually looking forward to it. We'd be driving there together. Chapter 7. Abrielle. I could hear the chirping birds outside as I lay half asleep, feeling the warmth of someone's body pressed against mine. I opened my eyes to find my head resting just under Ace's chin. When did he get back? I remembered he hadn't returned home last night since the morning. Supporting myself on one arm, I watched his sleeping face. He looked so peaceful, but then I noticed the smudge of pink lipstick on his cheek. My stomach turned. Of course, he'd been out with some other girl. I quietly got out of bed and walked to the bathroom, catching my reflection in the mirror. I was only wearing a tank top and panties. Great. I'd fallen asleep like this again. I undressed and stepped into the warm shower, hoping Ace wouldn't barge in since there was no lock. I definitely need to change that. Just as I stepped out, towel wrapped around me, Ace walked in, half awake and wearing nothing but boxers. I wanted to hurl something at him, but instead, I smirked, which caught his attention. "What's with the smile?" he asked. "Nothing," I replied, adjusting my towel. "I liked your panties," he teased, eyeing the floor where they lay. "Whatever. Where were you last night?" I asked as I walked over to the sink. He started brushing his teeth. "Why?" he mumbled with a mouthful of toothpaste. "Just wondering," I shrugged. "Maybe you were off with another girl." "Are you jealous?" he asked after rinsing. "What? No, obviously not." I rolled my eyes. "You sure, darling?" he said, wrapping forth, an arm around my waist and pulling me close. "Yeah," I stammered, tightening my grip on the towel. He looked down at my hand and smirked. "Want to join me for another shower?" he whispered. "In your dreams," I scoffed and rushed out. In the closet, which thankfully had a lock, I realized I'd forgotten my underwear. I tiptoed back into the bathroom, trying not to make a sound. "Change your mind?" Ace asked, spitting out water. "As if," I snapped, grabbed my things, and stormed back out. Ugh, the nerve of that guy. I didn't want to care if he was with someone else. I promised his parents I'd try to change him, but this was going to be harder than I thought. One side of the closet was his, the other mine. I browsed through the clothes, half of which Ace had bought for me. They were cute, but definitely revealing. I picked out a navy blue tank top, dark skinny jeans, and matching heels. After slipping on a black lacy bra and panties, I got dressed and opened the door, only to find Ace standing there with a towel hanging low on his waist, droplets sliding down his perfectly sculpted abs. Oh, why did he have to be so annoyingly attractive? "How long are you going to stand there with your mouth open?" he smoked, brushing past me. "I wasn't," I muttered, and sat at the makeup desk he'd set up for me. Honestly, he had done a lot since I moved in. I blow-dried and brushed my dark brown hair, then applied natural makeup like Jade taught me. "Aren't you beautiful as ever?" Ace murmured behind me, his lips close to my neck. I shivered but rolled my eyes. "Whatever." "I mean it. I didn't realize how beautiful you were until that night at the engagement party," he said, our eyes meeting in the mirror. Lies. I got up and looked him over. White t-shirt, dark jeans, black Nikes. He looked effortlessly good. As we left the room, I couldn't help but wonder, was he actually telling the truth? No, sitting in the passenger seat of Ace's sleek Mercedes-Benz, I couldn't stop admiring the car. "You seem to like the car more than your fiancé," Ace teased. "Oh, are you jealous?" I fluttered my lashes. He scoffed, mumbling something I didn't catch. We reached school in 30 minutes, parking in his so-called VIP spot. Who even has that? Oh, right, Ace. Before I could open the door, he was already there, holding it open. "Aw, aren't you a gentleman?" I said sarcastically. He laced his fingers with mine and closed the door. Ugh, another week of school. Someone shoot me. As we walked through the halls, everyone stared like they still couldn't believe we were engaged. I realized I was still holding Ace's hand. When he cleared his throat, I quickly let go. "Sorry," I muttered, and he clearly noticed the worry in my eyes. "I told you girls would be jealous," he whispered. "I can handle it," I lied. We passed a pretty girl who smiled at him, and he winked. "And how was she in bed?" I asked coldly. He choked. "What are you talking about? Cut the crap. I know you came home late because you were messing with someone else," I said, pulling my hand away. At my locker, he leaned casually beside me. "Aw, is my little L jealous? I thought you didn't like me." I ignored the "my little L" comment. "True," I said. "Then you don't care, right?" "Nope." I grabbed my books and walked away, only to bump into someone. I looked up and saw Justin. "Whoa there. What's on your mind?" he asked with a grin. "Nothing," I replied, trying to move, but he blocked me. "Can I talk to you for a minute?" he asked. his tone sincere. I glanced over my shoulder and spotted Ace walking toward us. I quickly grabbed Justin's hand and pulled him to the side near some lockers. If this made Ace jealous, good. I smiled at Justin, tucked a strand of hair behind my ear, and leaned close. What do you want to talk about? First of all, you look amazing, he said, scanning me. Thanks. I giggled. Me? Giggling? So, I was wondering if you'd go on a date with me? He asked, hopeful. You're right, I don't like Ace. So yeah, I will, I said, glancing at Ace's scowling face. Great, give me your number, he smiled. We exchanged numbers, and I surprised him with a hug. Wow, a guy like Justin asking me out. I caught Ace's annoyed expression as Justin walked away. That'll teach him. In first period, Jade tackled me with a hug. I missed you. My brother didn't hurt you, did he? No, why? I frowned, taking my seat in front of Nick, the guy who once called me a teacher's pet, who now stared with his mouth hanging open. I don't know, Jade said. He's not abusive, just has a temper. Right. It's not like we're going to, I joked. Ew, don't even say that, Jade laughed. Mrs. Florence entered the room. Miss Caldwell, or should I say Mrs. Soon-to-be Daniels, she teased. The class laughed, but for once it didn't feel cruel. Hey, babe, Ace said loudly, draping an arm around me. What do you want? I asked, brushing him off. What were you and Justin talking about? He asked, trying to sound casual. Why? I mimicked him. Just wanted to know. Are you jealous? I asked. Maybe, he answered, and I froze. Ace, jealous? Of me? The rest of the day flew by. After school, I waited for Ace to finish soccer practice, dragging Jade along. I couldn't stop thinking about his answer. Maybe it really was a yes. What's wrong? Jade asked. Nothing, just bored, I said, smiling weakly. So do you like my brother? She asked, eyes downcast. What? I gasped, making Cassidy and her little army glance our way. You seem like you do, she said quietly. The wind blew my hair into my face, and I turned to look at Ace on the field, yelling at his teammates like a tyrant. Ha! Look at him. He's so arrogant, I scoffed. Oh, I see, Jade said softly. A weird tension hung in the air. Minutes later, Cassidy made her way over. Great. Here we go. So you and Ace? She said in that annoying high-pitched voice. Yeah, what about us? Just letting you know, Ace would never fall for someone like you. He told me so. So quit dreaming and give him back to the woman he really loves, she sneered. You've got nerve, I said darkly. The whole soccer team turned their attention to us. And you don't? Cassidy hissed as we stood eye to eye. Bitch, I whispered under my breath, flinching when she raised her hand. Stop, Ace's voice boomed across the field. Everyone turned. Cassidy beamed and ran toward him, but he sidestepped her and came straight to me. Are you all right? He asked. Nothing I can't handle, I muttered. He turned to Cassidy. If you ever hurt her again, I'll make sure you regret it. The gasp that followed echoed across the entire field, especially from me. Chapter 8. Abrielle. My phone vibrated with a new text message. It was from Justin. A smile crept onto my face as I read it, then read it again. Justin, hey beautiful, I can't wait for this date. Pick you up at 7. I texted back, me can't wait. What are you smiling at? Ace's voice cut in as he stepped into the living room. Nothing, I replied casually, glancing up. Where are you going? He wore a navy blue varsity jacket in our school colors, a gray t-shirt, dark-washed skinny jeans, and clean white sneakers. He smelled like cedar wood and something warm, addictive. A date, he said nonchalantly, grabbing his car keys. Have fun, I said, rolling my eyes as he opened the front door. Oh, I will, he shouted back. A few seconds later, I heard the hum of his car engine fade into the distance. I knew he was just messing with me earlier at the field, pretending to care like a husband would. Emphasis on pretending. Still, he had sounded serious. Don't forget, You are the one who's supposed to tame him. I headed into the bathroom for a shower, trying not to wonder who he was out with. Honestly, thinking back to how Jade and I laughed about Cassidy's reaction after practice, that alone made me feel better. Her face had been priceless. After my shower, I searched through my closet for what felt like forever, before finally finding the perfect outfit. When I looked into the mirror, I couldn't help but feel a spark of confidence. Minutes later, Justin arrived, looking every bit like a runway model. "You look amazing," he said, giving me a respectful once-over. "Thanks. You too," I replied, locking the door behind me. "After you, my lady," he said, opening the passenger door of his car with a charming smile. "Why, thank you," I chuckled as I slid in. As he drove, I looked out the window and asked, "So, why did you suddenly want to go out with a girl like me?" "A girl like you?" he echoed, glancing over in confusion. "Yeah, aren't you the kind of guy who'd go for someone more beautiful?" He let out a quiet chuckle, ran a hand through his short blonde hair, and glanced at me again, his light blue eyes seeming to sparkle under the streetlights. "I haven't dated anyone in a while, just so you know. But after seeing you at the engagement party, I couldn't take my eyes off you." "Oh," I mumbled, looking down at my lap, blushing like an idiot. After a short silence, he added, "And I know your engagement is only temporary." My head shot up. "How do you know this?" "Ace told me. We're best friends, you know," he said with a raised brow. "Yeah, and when else did he tell you?" I asked, suddenly eager. "He told me I could take you out whenever I wanted." "Oh?" I forced a smile, trying not to show the slight sting behind it. "Then I'm okay with it too." "Whoa, a carnival," I said as I stared up at the lights, colors, and spinning rides. "Yeah, I figured you could use a little fun," he said, cutting the engine. "And what makes you think I don't?" I teased, turning to look at him. Our eyes locked. "Because every time I see you with Ace, you look down," he finally said. "Then you're good at guessing," I said with a soft laugh, getting out of the car. He joined me on the sidewalk, and before I could say anything, he reached for my hand and gently laced our fingers together. It didn't feel like holding Ace's hand, but I didn't pull away. As we walked toward the ticket booth, I froze. My breath caught when I saw the thing that had haunted my childhood, a clown. Yep, ever since I accidentally watched Stephen King's It, I'd had full-blown nightmares about clowns. "You okay?" Justin asked, clearly amused. I was practically glued to his arm. His eyes followed mine and landed on the clown. "Oh, so someone's scared of a little clown?" he teased as I hid my face against his shoulder. God, I felt like such a child. Still, he didn't laugh at me. His hand ran gently along my arm, comforting me. He even talked to the clown while I cowered away. "See? This is how you calm someone down, unlike a certain arrogant someone." We moved forward again, but as soon as I saw more clowns handing out balloons or riding unicycles, I froze. "Did you have to bring me somewhere full of clowns?" My eyes were wide as I clung to him again. "At least you get to hold on to this guy," he said, pointing to himself with a grin. I sighed, not letting go. Yes, I knew I was too old to be this scared, but every clown I saw reminded me of Pennywise. "So how about I win you something?" Justin offered, nodding toward a basketball booth. "Sure," I smiled. We walked over to the stand. The worker smiled at Justin. "Ready to win something for the lady?" Justin gave a confident nod. "It's simple. Make 5 baskets, win anything from the top row," the guy explained. And faster than you could say "holy cow," Justin made all 5 shots, swish perfectly through the net. "Wow," I said, impressed. "So what do you want?" he asked, looking around with me. My eyes landed on a plush bear with a pink ribbon. "That one," I pointed, smiling. He nodded. When the man handed it down, it had a tiny heart-shaped necklace on it. "A bonus," Justin smiled. "May I?" I nodded. He gently moved my hair aside and fastened the necklace around my neck, taking a moment to admire it. "And me?" "Ace?" he said suddenly, his smile fading. My heart dropped. I was afraid to turn around, afraid to see who Ace had come with. But why should I care? I was here with Justin. Still, I slowly turned and met a pair of light blue eyes. But they weren't Ace's. They belonged to Cassidy Richards. Chapter 9. Ace. The expression on Elle's face hurt, and I hated how much it mattered. Why should I care? She was here on a date with my best friend, even after I told him he could ask her out. So I guess she really doesn't like me. Not even after I stepped in to stop Cassidy from going crazy on her. It's not like I like Cassidy. Hell no. She's clingy, annoying, and thinks we're something. I just wanted to see Elle's reaction. And right now, jealousy was written all over her face. I didn't know you'd be here, Justin said. Same here, I answered, flatly. They didn't catch the edge in my tone. Cassidy clung to my arm and laughed that obnoxious laugh of hers. Look what Ace bought me, she squealed, flashing the cheap ring I gave her. I cringed inside. It was fake, and she actually believed it was real. I wanted to escape, but part of me stayed, because I wanted Elle to see this. I wanted her to feel exactly what I felt. Abrielle, it hurt. Deeply. Seeing him with Cassidy? Out of every girl, he had to pick her? After he'd shown me that protective, caring side? Jerk. Idiot. Asshole. Mother trucker. I could list insults all night long. Now the four of us were stuck together. Double date, Justin called it. Cassidy was basically glued to Ace, whispering flirty garbage in his ear, just loud enough for me to hear. I swear she was doing it on purpose. Hey, are you okay? You've been really quiet, Justin asked. His face full of concern. I nodded. Yeah, just hungry, I said, which wasn't a lie. I eat when I'm upset. Justin laughed and looked over his shoulder. Ace, why don't we get the ladies some food? Yeah, sure, Ace said in his annoyingly cool tone. Perfect. Now I was alone with Miss Psycho, and she wasted no time. I knew it was all an act, Cassidy scoffed. He told me it was just for publicity. He had to pretend to like you. Ouch. Her words stung because deep down, I believed them. That's when I decided, no more feeling hurt. Tonight, I was going to enjoy this date. Justin wanted to be here. Maybe I should actually try this thing with him. It sounded simple. The guys returned, and we found a bench to sit on. Cassidy muttered something about how disgusting the bench was. Justin handed me a slice of pizza and a soda, while he grabbed himself a hot dog. Ew, I am not eating that, Cassidy whined, scowling at the hot dog. It's a carnival. You're not getting fine dining. ... Ace snapped back, rolling his eyes. Huh, that surprised me. I always figured Ace was the suit-wearing, five-star restaurant kind of guy. Guess he had other layers. I sat quietly, enjoying my pizza, watching kids run around with sticky fingers and giant cotton candy. Elle, Justin chuckled, leaning over with a napkin to wipe the corner of my mouth. I blushed. Ooh, thanks. I peeked at Ace. He was looking away, but the tight set of his jaw told me he saw. Good, you deserve it. The rest of the night went well. We rode the Ferris wheel, though Cassidy ruined the moment by shrieking about how high up we were. I was kind of hoping she'd puke on Ace, but no such luck. I mean, really, Cassidy. Out of all the girls he could have chosen? In the parking lot, we said goodbyes, or rather, Justin did. He drove me home in silence, and part of me wished he'd say something. Maybe he got the wrong idea from my face. So do I get another date? He asked sweetly when we reached the doorstep. I could fit you in. I smiled and hugged him, but I could tell from his eyes he wanted more. I wasn't ready for that, so before he could say anything else, I slipped inside. Exhausted, I headed to the bedroom and glared at the bed, knowing Ace and I shared it. Out of pure irritation, I kicked the mattress, which immediately backfired. Groaning, I clutched my foot, then flopped onto the bed. After changing down to a tank top and underwear, I pulled the covers over me. I didn't care what Ace thought. It was my room too, now. I stretched, yawned, and let my thoughts spiral. Stupid Ace. Stupid Ace. Stupid Ace. I kept chanting in my head like it was a bedtime mantra. A loud bang startled me awake. Groggily, I rubbed my eyes. A figure moved toward the other side of the bed, lit only by the soft glow of moonlight. I squinted to see his face. Ace. It was almost 1 a.m., and the fact that he'd been out this long with her. I didn't even like Cassidy, yet I still stayed out. Why? Because I knew she would notice. Where were you? She asked softly. Damn, I didn't expect that. Why do you care? I snapped, pulling off my clothes down to my boxers. She curled up on her side of the bed, quiet. But then, with her voice low and unsure, she asked, Did you really mean what you said at school? Her head rested on her knees, her eyes searching mine. My voice came out more like a mumble than a confession. Yeah. She looked stunned. Then why would you go out with Cassidy? She asked. I stood up, crossed the room slowly, and sat beside her. The mattress dipped under my weight. Our eyes met. After practice, Justin told me you had a date with him, I said, leaning closer. I couldn't help it. I wanted to make you feel jealous. Her eyes widened. Her breath caught. I was so close now. Our lips almost brushed. So you were jealous? She asked. I hesitated. Then, barely above a whisper, I said, yes. And right there I kissed her. Softly, slowly. Just a brush at first, then firmer. And to my surprise, she kissed me back. Her legs relaxed. Her arms loosened. But the one thing that didn't calm down was her heart. Chapter 10. Abrielle. The feeling of his bare skin against mine warmed me in a way I didn't expect. His strong arms were wrapped around me, like he was afraid someone would take me from him. I looked up at his sleeping face and my mind raced. Were his words real? I couldn't even answer that for myself. It felt like he was playing a game, whispering sweet lines like he was moving chess pieces, only to flip the board with his actions. He painted blue skies over me, only to watch them fade back to gray. After everything he'd said and done, I didn't know whether to trust him or expect the next heartbreak. Did I like him? Honestly, I didn't know what I felt anymore. But maybe time would tell. All I knew was the way he held me, so close, like I was something he couldn't let go of. It made me want to believe him. If he ever came out and said he truly liked me, maybe, just maybe, I'd give him a chance, if he changed. And wasn't that the point of this entire arrangement? To tame him? Somehow, I'd ended up caught in his emotional pull when I was supposed to be doing the opposite. Lost in thought, I flinched as his phone suddenly rang, slicing through the quiet. He groaned, reluctantly letting go of me to reach the nightstand. Hello? He said, sitting at the edge of the bed. Yeah, she's good. No, what time? Okay, fine, we'll be there. He ran a hand through his messy hair. I bit my lip, waiting for him to tell me what that was about. He set the phone down and crawled back to my side, wrapping his arms around me again like nothing happened. Ace? I asked, raising an eyebrow. He mumbled without opening his eyes. Who was that? Mom, he sighed, opening his piercing blue eyes. She wants us to come over for something at noon. I turned my head to check the clock on the wall. It read 10:55. Then we better get ready, I said. I got out of bed and headed to the bathroom, hearing him groan like a grumpy child behind me. I showered quickly, half expecting him to barge in like usual. But this time, he didn't. As I stepped out and wrapped myself in a towel, I saw him leaning against the wall outside the bathroom, looking distracted. I'm done, I said, catching his attention. His head snapped up, and a slow smile spread across his face as his eyes traveled down my towel-covered figure. I blushed and rushed past him to the closet, feeling his gaze on me the entire way. Later that morning, We pulled up to what could only be described as a palace. I gasped at the sight of the massive house. Mansion? Castle? It had a mile-long driveway flanked by neatly trimmed hedges, a huge fountain with a Cupid statue, pillars supporting an arched front, and double white doors. Even a royal blue carpet stretched from the driveway to the front entrance. "I can't believe you live here," I said as Ace opened my door. "Well, my parents," he corrected with a raised brow. "Right," I muttered. A butler in a black suit stepped out with the most formal air imaginable. "Young Master Daniels and Miss Caldwell, welcome home," he greeted with an old English accent. I couldn't help but scoff softly. "Young Master Daniels? Really?" "Thanks, Charles," Ace replied, with zero enthusiasm. I elbowed him and noticed how startled Charles looked. Ace must have been a terror when he lived here. I could totally picture it. Charles led us inside to a foyer that looked straight out of a 5-star hotel, except warmer. We walked down an endless corridor until we reached 2 giant wooden doors. Charles opened them to reveal a massive dining room. "Abby," a tiny voice called out, and my heart nearly burst. My baby sister, Jazzy, Ace, a little girl, maybe the age of my sister Giselle, ran straight into Abrielle's arms. She looked like a miniature version of Elle, so I instantly knew this had to be her sister. "Acey," another voice called out, and I turned just in time to catch my own little sister, Giselle. "Elle," I smiled. "What?" Abrielle asked, confused. "Abrielle, meet my little sister Giselle. I call her Elle too. Giselle, this is Abrielle," I said, and Giselle shyly hid her face against my neck. "Me and Giselle are friends," Jazzy giggled, melting everyone's heart. "Oh, really? Well, this is Ace. Ace, this is Jazzy," Abrielle smiled. "In other words, I'm your sister's fiancé," I added, watching Jazzy's face twist in surprise. Abrielle's eyes darted across the room and landed on her parents, seated opposite mine. Her face lit up, and she ran to them, pulling Jazzy along. Her parents wrapped her in their arms, turning it into a full-blown reunion. She probably missed them more than she let on. "Look at you, you've changed," her mom said, touching her cheek. "No, I haven't," Abrielle replied, but I disagreed. She had changed. She looked stronger now, brighter. "She's absolutely a stunning young woman," my mother said aloud. "I'm a lucky guy to have her," I added, stepping up beside her and wrapping an arm around her waist. Her parents' eyes tracked every move. "You better treat her right," Mr. Caldwell said, voice firm with a protective edge. Elle rolled her eyes, but I didn't. The man was serious. I knew he meant it, and I kind of wanted to survive this engagement. "Oh, be quiet," Mrs. Caldwell said to her husband, urging him to sit down. He did, reluctantly. Our families now sat across from one another. The air turned stiff, tense in a way that told me something big was coming. Abrielle gave me a "what the hell is going on" look. I just shrugged. Then my father cleared his throat. "Well, we think it's time," he said, glancing between us, "for you two to get married, sooner." Before we could react, my mother chimed in. "We know it's sudden, but Ace, Abrielle, you're getting married in 3 days." Chapter 11. Abrielle. "What?" I asked, louder than I intended. "Abrielle!" Mom quickly shushed me. I mean, I knew the wedding was supposed to be in 2 weeks, but changing it to 3 days? That was impossible. I've seen my aunt's weddings, and even with all the planning in the world, they were still hectic. I didn't even have my dress yet. How are we supposed to plan an entire wedding from scratch? "Don't worry, sweetheart, we have everything set up, Mrs. Daniel said with a reassuring smile that settled my nerves just a little. "You'll pick out your dress today. Tomorrow, we'll do your bachelorette party and bridal shower. While Ace has his bachelor party," Mr. Daniels added, glancing at Ace with a grin. "Then, on Friday, we'll have the wedding rehearsal and rehearsal dinner." Mrs. Daniels continued confidently. "And Saturday, it's wedding day." They really did have it all figured out. And maybe that should have brought me peace, but still, I'd always imagined planning my own wedding, choosing every detail. Then again, This wasn't exactly the wedding I pictured, was it? You'll get to pick out the decorations after you choose your dress, Mom said, patting my back. All of it suddenly felt real, like a real wedding. Even if Ace didn't care about me, even if this marriage wasn't born from love, it still felt real to me. And that realization made my heart ache. Suddenly, the dining room doors swung open and Jade walked in. Oh my God, it felt like I hadn't seen her in forever. Being stuck in that house really had felt like being trapped in time. She waved excitedly and took the seat next to Giselle. How were the venues? Mrs. Daniels asked her. They were amazing. You're gonna love them, Elle, Jade squealed. Venues? I raised an eyebrow. She said with a wink. But you'll find out later. That's when Ace narrowed his eyes at his mother. Don't you think Elle and I should be the ones planning our own wedding? That honestly took us all by surprise, especially coming from him. He'd made it pretty clear that he didn't want this wedding any more than I did. He's kind of right, I muttered under my breath, though only Ace heard me. What was that, dear? Mrs. Daniels asked. She said I was right. Ace replied, before I could even answer. Well, Mrs. Daniels said smoothly, you'll both get to see everything soon. But for now, why don't you two go shopping? I did trust them. I just didn't want the process to feel overwhelming. When I was little, I used to tell my mom I wanted a beach wedding. And now I couldn't stop wondering, would it actually be on the beach? I waited as Ace wrapped up his phone call. The meeting had ended, but I couldn't stop thinking about how they'd planned this whole wedding behind our backs. And even though it annoyed me, Ace was right. We should be deciding things together. Ready? He asked softly, standing close behind me. I felt his presence more than anything. His voice, low and warm, sent shivers through me. How did he do that? Yeah, I stammered, quickly making my way to the car. I opened the door myself and slid in. He joined me in the driver's seat and pulled onto the road, looking more serious than ever. It was just enough to make me wonder if maybe he did want to marry me. God, if I could read minds, things would be so much easier. Where do you want to shop? He asked, turning onto a busier road. And then, there it was. The store. The one I dreamed of shopping at for years. My mom had even gotten her wedding dress there. There, I said quietly, pointing. He nodded and pulled into the lane, though we quickly got stuck in traffic. Figures. Why that one? He asked, glancing over at me. I avoided eye contact, watching the people passing by instead. Because ever since I was a kid, I always wanted to get my dress there, and my mom did too. Just outside the window, an elderly couple sat together on a bench. My heart melted a little. I bet they'd been together for decades. I see, he murmured. I hesitated, then finally asked, Do you even want this to happen? My heart beat so loud, I could barely hear myself speak. He paused for a moment. Then he answered, In a way, yeah. If our parents hadn't arranged everything, I would have been happy to date you first, then maybe marry you. The traffic moved slowly, and I felt a lump in my throat. Are you sure? I whispered. Because I don't want this to be... I'm sure, he said firmly, cutting me off. Positive. His eyes met mine with something real, something honest, and just for a second, I believed him. But could I keep trusting his words? We reached the shop, and I spotted Jade already waiting outside. She wasn't alone. Standing next to her was Justin. What was he doing here? Oh, right. He was probably Ace's best man. Ace opened my door and offered his arm. I took it, but I couldn't ignore the flicker of emotion in Justin's eyes. He smiled, but it didn't reach his face. We'd only had one date, but did he really like me that much? This is so exciting, Jade squealed. My brother and my best friend getting married. Congratulations, Justin said quietly, his hands in his pockets. Thanks, Ace and I said together. It got awkward. Fast. Come on, let's go try on dresses, Jade squeaked, grabbing me and dragging me into the store. The inside was gorgeous. Rows and rows of gowns. I had a feeling the entire shop was reserved just for us. Good afternoon, Miss Caldwell. The attendants greeted politely, then turned to Jade. Miss Daniels. Call me Elle, I smiled. But then I noticed their expressions shift. They were looking past me. Good afternoon, young Master Daniels, one of them said dreamily. I turned, and yep, there he was. Ace, grinning, completely unbothered. And the women, definitely in their late 20s, were practically swooning. Some were even staring at Justin. Shall we, dear? Ace said, placing a gentle hand on the small of my back. Yeah, I replied with a nervous smile. Jade and I explored the racks, while Ace and Justin sat nearby, talking. I couldn't help but wonder what they were saying. If I had super hearing, I'd totally eavesdrop. Elle, try this on, Jade yelled, making me jump. She held up a strapless gown with a draped bodice, a floor-length tulle skirt, and a soft peach sash at the waist. It was stunning. She shoved it into my hands and pushed me toward the fitting rooms. I undressed, slipping into the gown, laughing to myself. Jade was so excited, and honestly, it was kind of cute. You done yet? She asked. Hold your horses, I called back, finishing up. You're so slow, she groaned. Jade, this isn't a fashion show, I said, rolling my eyes as I opened the door. You look stunning, she breathed out. I smiled. There were 3 dresses I couldn't choose between. Pick this one, Jade pointed at the goddess-style gown. I sighed. I can't decide. How about we take all 3? Ace suggested from behind me. That way you can choose later. That was actually a great idea. All right, I agreed, sitting beside him as he rested his arm casually behind me. One moment, please, the shop manager said, and the staff went to prepare the dresses. Now that dresses are done, we can pick the rest of the wedding details, Jade chirped. Ugh, I groaned, flopping my head back and accidentally hitting Ace's arm. Oops, sorry. That's fine, darling, he whispered, leaning closer with a grin. Ew, gross, Jade grimaced. I'm happy for you two, but please, no lovey-dovey stuff in front of me. My face turned hot as I stared at my lap. The staff returned with the dresses, packed in black garment bags. Ace stood, shook the manager's hand, and thanked her. That surprised me. He was being nice, different. We walked outside, and Ace loaded the dresses into the car. Someone brushed past me. I turned. Justin. See you at school, he said with a quick smile before heading to his car. I watched him leave, feeling a weird tug of guilt. I didn't even know what he was thinking, but I still felt bad. Elle? Ace's voice broke through. Ready to go? Yeah, I said, slipping into the passenger seat. He closed the door and got behind the wheel. More errands, more to do, but bigger things were coming, and soon. What was going to happen as we got closer to the wedding? Please, let nothing ruin this. Not now. I stared at Ace as he drove. Did he even know how hard I was trying not to fall for him? Just watching him, running a hand through his hair like it meant nothing. He was making me want him more than I should. Chapter 12. Abrielle. We arrived at this adorable little shop that sold all kinds of wedding decorations. As Ace and I walked in, I was immediately overwhelmed by how many beautiful things surrounded us. Tablecloths, candles, floral designs, centerpieces, you name it. Boy, choosing from all of this was going to be hard. For a wedding that's not even supposed to be real, it sure feels like the real thing. Fake or not, I want it to be perfect. Hey, they're over there, Ace said, and I looked up to see Mom, Mrs. Daniels, and Jade already inside, locked in a heated debate about centerpieces. This one is elegant, Mrs. Daniels insisted, holding up a white candle floating in rose petals. But Elle likes purple, Mom countered, lifting a round fishbowl vase filled with small purple flowers and a long white candle sticking out the center. Of course, Mom knew me best, but I'd have to talk with Ace too, see what he thought. Mom, I called, and all 3 women snapped their heads toward us. Good, you're here. We need you to choose the decorations, Mom said, dragging me straight to the table. Yeah, because we are getting nowhere like this, Jade sighed, rolling her eyes. I looked around. Everything was so beautiful, I almost wanted to pick them all. But they were pricey. Each centerpiece cost over $100. Then again, this was the Daniels family. I really shouldn't be surprised. Remember, you have the rehearsal dinner and the reception, so pick a few different centerpiece styles, Mrs. Daniels added. So, it's definitely a big wedding. How many tables were there going to be? I mean, my family alone could fill an entire ballroom. You like purple, right? Ace asked from just behind me, leaning in slightly as he studied the display. I glanced up at him, raising a brow. How do you know that? It's obvious, he said with a shrug, picking up a delicate glass vase with a swirled pattern. Most of your stuff is purple. Wow. Did he really notice that? I don't think I've ever told him my favorite color, though I know his is blue. Suddenly, loud squeals echoed across the store. I looked over to see Mrs. Daniels, Mom, and Jade watching us with amused grins. I blinked. Oh, we probably looked like an actual couple, standing so close together, choosing decorations. Don't mind them, Ace muttered with a sigh, clearly unfazed. I just nodded and went back to looking, but I couldn't stop smiling. Normally, I'd have pushed him away by now, but this felt comfortable. We spent hours there. We picked out 3 different centerpiece styles, white tablecloths, candles, and a dozen other things I never knew went into wedding planning. The color theme we settled on was purple, gray, and white. Classy, soft, and elegant. When we tallied the total, the price was absolutely insane. But everything would be delivered before the events, so we didn't stress. By the time we got back to the car, it was already dark. I was exhausted. I didn't want to move. I could have curled up in Ace's passenger seat and just passed out right there. Are you okay? He asked, turning on the engine. Its low purr was oddly soothing. I opened my eyes and saw the concern on his face. Yeah, just a little tired, I replied, sitting up straighter. Well, you've got to keep your strength up, he said, gently placing the back of his hand against my forehead. Chill, I'm not sick, I waved him off. Honestly, I should be saying the same to you. He chuckled softly and pulled onto the road. The glow of the streetlights passed through the car in calming waves. The colors shifted across his face, and I couldn't look away. Care to join me for a late dinner? He asked, glancing at me. It almost sounded like he was asking me on a date. But in reality, he probably just knew I hadn't eaten anything all day. I mean, no breakfast, no lunch, and now that I thought about it, I was starving. Sure, I said casually, but then my stomach let out a loud growl. My face flushed, and I quickly placed a hand over my stomach. Cute, he laughed under his breath. I stuck out my tongue at him playfully. He didn't expect that, but it made him laugh again. Ace. Out of all the dinners I've ever had with girls, I've never seen anyone eat like Elle. But then again, she was probably really hungry. Still, she looked adorable, completely focused on her food. Honestly, I hated most of the girls I'd taken to dinner before. They were all the same. Picky, shallow, dramatic. One time, a girl ordered chicken and refused to eat it because she thought it had cards. It was chicken. Aren't you going to eat? Elle asked, eyeing me as she speared a piece of shrimp. I smiled and nodded, cutting into my steak just to reassure her. By the way, she said, what are you allergic to? Tomatoes, I muttered. I made tomato pasta the first night we moved in, she gasped. It's very mild, I added quickly, trying to ease her guilt. She looked relieved. Well, I hate tomatoes anyway, so I won't be buying them. I smiled to myself. What is going on in that head of hers? Ace, a voice called, and I instantly tensed. Ugh. I looked at Elle, who suddenly went rigid, her eyes fixed on someone behind me. I turned, and there she was, Cassidy. What the hell was she doing here? Hey, honey, she purred, leaning in to kiss my cheek. I pulled back. No way was I going to let that happen, not in front of Elle. Oh, I see. Still playing pretend with your fiancé? Cassidy sneered, making sure to emphasize the word. Elle's jaw dropped slightly, and I saw the flash of hurt in her eyes. No, not happening. Don't get confused, I said sharply. We were never together, and it's not an act. Cassidy's face twisted with rage, and I knew what was coming. She'd go whining to her daddy. Whatever, I didn't care. Cassidy was a spoiled brat who always got what she wanted. But I'd never let her hurt Elle. Not as long as I was around. Let's go, Elle, I said firmly, tossing $100 bill on the table. I grabbed her hand and led her out of the restaurant. Once we were outside, she yanked her hand away from mine. I turned, and the look on her face nearly crushed me. Abrielle, tell me the truth, I said, voice shaking. And don't even think about lying, like you always do. He took one step toward me, then another, until he was right in front of me, just like the first time he'd pinned me against the wall. But this time, I didn't flinch. I held my ground, staring up into his unreadable face. That was the truth, he said. You want to know more? Slowly, he reached out and brushed a strand of hair away from my face. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. I want this to work, he said quietly, his hand gently cupping my cheek. I don't know why, but whatever magic you've got, it's working on me. My breath hitched. See, can I really trust you on that? I stammered, my forehead resting against his now. I wish you would, he whispered. And without even thinking, I did the one thing that surprised both of us, probably more than anything else that's happened since this all began. I kissed him. Chapter 13, Abrielle. I was absolutely glowing. Not only did Ace finally confess to me, but tomorrow my old friends from school were coming to my bachelorette party. This had to be the best week ever. I swear the smile on my face wasn't going anywhere. I had just left Jade's room after calling all my friends. Ace and I were staying over at his parents' house tonight, and let me tell you, this place was a complete maze. I wandered down a hallway hoping to find someone who could help, but then I heard giggling. I paused in front of the set of doors, pressing my ear against them. I recognized those voices. Knocking twice, I peeked my head in and found two little girls staring back at me. Is there a party going on in here or what? I chuckled. Abby, Jazzy squealed, running toward me. I scooped her into my arms and held her tight, like I hadn't seen her in years. I loved that little girl to pieces. Ever since Mom told me she was pregnant 3 years ago, I dreamed of having a little sister. And I swore nothing in this world would ever hurt her while I was around. I set her down, and her tiny hand pulled mine toward a shy Giselle. I smiled at her gently, but she kept hiding behind her pillow. So what are you two doing still awake? I asked softly. We can't sleep, Jazzy chirped. Well then, what can I do to help you fall asleep? I sat beside them, smiling at Giselle. See, can you read us a story? Giselle asked in the cutest little voice I've ever heard. I nearly melted. I was so happy she felt comfortable enough to talk to me. I couldn't help but wonder if she was always this quiet, or just around people like Cassidy. She told me, Jazzy whispered, and I leaned in, that a mean girl named Cassidy hit her before. My jaw dropped. That poor baby must have been traumatized. Oh, come here, I whispered, holding my arms open. Giselle hesitated but crawled into my lap, and I gently stroked her hair. I swear I would never hurt you, and I would never let anyone else hurt you either. She clung to me like she needed that comfort more than anything. What are you guys doing? Ace's voice called from behind us. Giselle quickly turned and ran to him. He scooped her up, their bond absolutely heart-melting. She whispered something in his ear, and his expression shifted to surprise, then softened into a kind chuckle. I was dying to know what she said. Ace let her down, and they both came to sit beside me. I looked over, waiting to see if he'd tell me, but he just gave me that sweet smile and rested his head on my shoulder. Abby, read this one, Jazzy begged, handing me a book. Giselle chimed in with pleading eyes. I smiled and looked at the cover, Beauty and the Beast. I chuckled and flipped to the first page, reading it aloud. By the end of the story, Both girls were curled up, fast asleep. It was absolutely adorable. "Ace," I whispered, and blinked when I saw him, also asleep. "Dork," I teased. "I'm not sleeping," he mumbled, lifting his head. "Just savoring the moment." I laughed at how cheesy he was. Then, without warning, he scooped me up bridal style and carried me out of the room. He ticked open the door to a room just across from Giselle's. I giggled as he gently set me down on his massive bed. The whole room was decorated in elegant shades of gray, black, and white. The glass, leather, and soft lighting gave it a relaxing, romantic vibe. We laid on our sides, facing each other. His eyes sparkled like polished stones as he played with the heart-shaped necklace I always wore. I couldn't look away from that angel-carved face of his. "Jazzy told me what happened with Giselle," I said softly. His eyes locked with mine, and he pulled me into his arms. "What?" "Cassidy hit Giselle before," I whispered. His expression immediately darkened, his jaw clenched with fury. "That's why she was so shy around you," he said under his breath, trying to stay calm. I gently ran my thumb along his cheek, and he visibly relaxed. In that moment, I knew for sure. He really did want to make things work between us. I could feel it. "Don't you want to change?" he asked, glancing at my clothes. True, I was still in my fitted top and denim shorts, not exactly sleepwear. "I don't, I began, but he cut me off. "I've got some stuff I keep here, just in case." He grinned. "In the closet, right?" I asked. "Already heading there." He nodded, grin still intact. I stepped into his walk-in closet and, wow. No wonder he didn't take all his clothes with him. He'd need a dozen suitcases just to pack half of this. I picked out a crisp white button-down shirt, stripped down to my undergarments, and slipped it on. For once in my life, I was actually trying to look good for a guy. When I walked out, Ace looked amused, perceptive little troublemaker. I crawled back into bed, and he pulled me close again. He hesitated, waiting for permission before leaning in. With a smile, I gave it, and he kissed me. His lips were warm and inviting. His hands slid gently along my sides, memorizing every curve. The taste of him was like sweet vanilla and something deeper, and I couldn't help but want more. His tongue traced my bottom lip, sending shivers down my spine. And when I let him in, it was like something inside me finally gave in. I wrapped a leg around his waist, and his hand slid up along my thigh, then gently cupped my back. My hands were tangled in his hair as we both pulled away, breathless and blinking at each other. "You're amazing," he whispered, brushing kisses across my neck. I couldn't help the small moan that escaped, and I could feel him smiling against my skin. His lips traveled up my jaw, to my cheek, forehead, and back to my lips. I giggled when his hands grazed my sides. "Oops, so ticklish." "What, are you ticklish?" he laughed, and when I nodded, he immediately launched into a full-on tickle attack. Okay, stop," I begged, laughing so hard my stomach ached and tears filled my eyes. "Beg for mercy," he teased. "Is that how you scream?" I gasped, wide-eyed at his boldness, and smacked him with a pillow. That, of course, turned into a pillow fight. And when we were finally exhausted, he kissed me again, soft and slow. Later, I stood by the door, grabbing my clutch. I was dressed in a strapless black sequin mini dress and glittery 4-inch heels that made my legs look fabulous. Tonight, I was going out with my girls, and I was going to let loose. "Stay out of trouble," Ace called after me as I left the house. We got home early in the morning after saying goodbye to my parents, who had also stayed the night at Ace's place. Jade was already waiting outside in a limo. The driver, in a sleek black suit, opened the door, and I slid inside to find her fixing her makeup. "Hey, hun," she smiled. "Ready to shake it on the dance floor?" "Been ready my whole life," I laughed. The limo started moving, and it was time to pick up the girls I'd missed so much. First stop, Mackenzie's. She was like a real-life Barbie. I always wondered why she wasn't picked as a scholarship student like me. As we pulled up to her modest house, she came out beaming, gift bag in hand. I jumped out before the driver even reached the handle, and we ran to hug each other, screaming like fans at a concert. "I missed you so much," she squealed. "And you're marrying that super dreamy Ace Daniels?" "Yeah, long story," I laughed as we climbed into the limo. "Oh my gosh, you're Jadine Daniels," Mackenzie gasped when she spotted Jade. "And you're Mackenzie Harris," Jade beamed. They hugged like they'd known each other forever. The car moved on, and we talked nonstop about everything, especially the wedding. We picked up Erin next. Spunky red hair, green eyes, and the perfect mix of sass and sweetness. She had questions for days. Then came Jamie. Long black hair, golden brown eyes. Scarlett with her cute pixie cut and hazel eyes. And Candace, long bleached blonde hair and stunning crystal blue eyes. We finally arrived at a club Jade had reserved just for us. I had no idea what to expect from her, but the moment we walked in, the room exploded in squeals. This night was going to be unforgettable. Everyone set their gifts on a table in the VIP lounge. "Open mine first," Jade smiled, handing me a little box. Inside was a gorgeous charm bracelet with a delicate A on it. "Mine next," Erin giggled, handing me a Victoria's Secret bag. Uh-oh. I pulled out a red baby doll nightie with a matching lacy bra and, oh my gosh, a tiny red thong. My face flushed as the girls cracked up laughing. There is no way I'm wearing that. We kept opening gifts, drinks were served, and the music got louder. One by one, we hit the dance floor, and drink after drink, I finally let go. All the girls were drunk, except Jade, who only had a martini. I walked over to her, laughing as she held up something that was definitely directed at me. I couldn't even make out what I was saying anymore. Then somehow, I was on the bar counter, dancing. I grabbed the pole that stretched from the ceiling to the counter. Wait, what in the world was I doing? Chapter 14. Ace. My head was pounding as I woke up on the floor of my bedroom. What on earth happened last night? Everything after those drinks was a blur. I looked around. Everything seemed in place, except for the figure lying on my bed. I gulped and walked over to check. Relief washed over me when I saw Elle's peaceful face. Thank goodness. Still unsure how we even made it back, I didn't want to disturb her. I slipped into the bathroom only to realize I smelled strongly of alcohol. A hot shower was in order. As the water poured down, I thought about the wedding rehearsal and the upcoming dinner. I hoped it wouldn't be too overwhelming for Elle. My entire family would be there. I especially prayed my grandmother Teresa wouldn't do anything too embarrassing. Mid-shower, the bathroom door swung open and I heard retching sounds. I quickly shut off the water, grabbed a towel, and found Elle hunched over the toilet. She was clearly not okay. I wrapped the towel around myself and rushed to hold her hair back, gently rubbing her back as she got sick. She must have really gone overboard last night. Afterward, she flushed, rinsed her mouth, and furiously brushed her teeth. "How much did you drink?" I asked, leaning on the sink beside her. "I don't know," she mumbled through the toothpaste. I chuckled, kissed her cheek, and left her to freshen up in peace. When I finished dressing, I heard the shower running again. A few minutes later, she peeked her head out of the bathroom, probably to check if I was still around. "Looking for someone?" I teased from the sitting area. "No," she said quickly, shaking her head and disappearing into the closet. She reappeared in a strapless white dress and matching wedges, or whatever those were called. Either way, she looked absolutely stunning. Honestly, Elle could have been a model with those legs. She cleared her throat, pulling my eyes back up to her sparkling blue ones. "Ready?" I asked, rising from the couch. She nodded with a smile that always got to me. She clutched my arm as we walked, and I loved the way she held it, like she didn't want to share. But the moment we stepped into the living room, we both stopped. The sight was something. Our bridesmaids and groomsmen were passed out all over the place. The only two missing were Justin and Jadine. Elle let go of my arm and knelt beside a redhead who was sleeping peacefully on the hardwood floor like it was her personal bed. As she began waking her friends, I nudged mine: Ryan, Tyler, Hector, Landon, and Michael. Grumbling in pain, Tyler groaned, "What's going on?" Elle looked around, gently helping a platinum blonde onto the couch. "You all fell asleep in the living room?" she asked, looking around in disbelief. I hadn't expected these girls to be Elle's friends. As a scholarship student, she was often misunderstood and unfairly judged because of her background. But they seemed close. After a round of goodbyes and calling some drivers, our friends headed home. "I wonder who brought us back," Elle said, dialing her phone. "Hey, where are you?" she asked the person on the other line. "Oh, so what happened last night?" She nodded slowly. "Okay, I'll tell him. Bye." "Who was that?" I asked. "Jade. She took us girls home and Justin drove you and the guys here," Elle answered casually. "Want some breakfast?" My heart warmed. I'd never say no to her cooking. It was one of the many reasons she'd won me over. In the kitchen, she got to work pancakes, sausages, scrambled eggs, strawberries, and even blueberries on top. She made herself a latte and sat down beside me. "Oh, do you want coffee, milk, or juice?" she asked, standing up again. "No, let me get it. You enjoy your breakfast," I replied, heading to the fridge. She sat back down, smiling like it was the sweetest thing ever. It was such a natural, domestic moment. It felt like something a married couple would do. The thought gave me chills. I never pictured myself settling down this young. We were still in high school. The arrangement hadn't even officially begun, yet here we were. Was I really changing this fast? The wedding rehearsal went better than expected. People loosened up and got to know each other. It almost made the wedding feel real, not just some temporary deal Elle made with my father to get me under control. Elle and I made rounds, talking with family and guests. Then the room fell silent. Everyone's gaze turned toward the entrance. And then I saw her. No, 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 no. That smug smile said it all. Cassidy. Her dress was designed to steal attention, and she knew it. I instinctively pulled Elle closer, bracing for whatever Cassidy was plotting. Her expression made it clear. She was here for trouble. "Good evening," she greeted, voice sickeningly sweet. "What are you doing here?" I asked, trying to stay calm. "What do you mean? I was invited, silly," she giggled, tapping my arm and letting her hand trail down. Elle stood firm beside me, not fooled in the slightest. "Well, thanks for coming," she said politely, fingers laced in mine like a subtle warning. Her eyes said what her words didn't. "He's mine. Back off." I relaxed a little, knowing Elle could hold her own. Later, Cassidy caught me alone in a hallway while Elle was talking with Justin. I hated that she was alone with him, but I had to trust her like she was trusting me now. "You're mine, and you'll always be mine," Cassidy whispered in my ear, stepping out from the shadows. I wanted to walk away, but she blocked me, forcing a conversation. "Last time I checked, we were never together," I said, each word laced with warning. "Stop pretending, babe. It's just us now," she said, her voice soaked in fake charm. She pushed herself against me, and I shoved her back, disgusted. But she bounced right back, again trying to close the space between us. This time, I held her wrist to keep her away. "Don't ever call me that. What we had was nothing but a mistake, and everyone knows you ran off chasing someone else when I wasn't giving you attention." I paused, trying to hold back my frustration. "And what on earth were you thinking, laying a hand on my sister?" I had to hear it from Elle because my sister couldn't even tell me herself. "She was being a brat," Cassidy scoffed, unfazed. "And if you really didn't care about me, why don't you prove it and kiss me now?" She leaned in again. "My sister is not a brat," I snapped. "She's smarter than you'll ever be, and I like Elle. You need to get that through your head. It's not changing anytime soon." But before I could take a step back, she suddenly pressed her lips against mine. I stood frozen in shock. And then I saw her at the end of the hallway. Elle, and my heart dropped. Chapter 15, Abrielle. Was I really seeing this? Was I really seeing Ace kissing Cassidy? I had turned my back for just a second, and now they were kissing. Tears had silently stained my cheeks. I looked at him with utter disgust. I saw a flicker of remorse on his face as he pushed past Cassidy. But what did I care? They were kissing. Maybe this was all just a joke to him. I was foolish to believe the things he said. My heart was broken, shattered. I ran back into the ballroom where the rehearsal dinner was happening. I heard Ace calling my name, but I didn't want to hear a word. I should have refused Mr. Daniels from the start. Now I realized Ace was only trying to humiliate me because I agreed to help control his wild side. Guess I was the wrong girl. "Mom, I want to go home, now," I sobbed, tears pouring down my face. What happened?" Mom asked, eyes darting around the room. "Please, now," I begged, running out before Ace could reach me. Why was I crying so much? This was supposed to be a lesson for him, not for me to fall for him. This was too much. He was the first guy to ever win my heart, and now it was broken. All I felt was loneliness. The wedding was off, and I had no connection left with Ace. I didn't want to think about his name, his face, his voice, or his touch. The week was over, and I had to go back to school and face everyone. After thinking it over, I decided it was best to move on. I knew something disastrous would happen before or during the wedding. I was excited to wear a wedding dress, had even picked some favorites. But Cassidy had to come and ruin everything. Lost in my thoughts, I heard my mom calling me from downstairs. I was back at my parents' house. Dad had collected all my things yesterday. Hopefully, he'd given Ace a piece of his mind. But knowing Dad, he acted tough on the outside and was soft on the inside. "Abrielle," Mom flung open my door. "What?" I sighed, turning to her. "Honey, I know your heart is broken, but it's not worth crying over a guy who doesn't deserve you," she said gently. I hoped she wouldn't go through that relationship talk again. I'd already cried my heart out. "I don't care," I said bitterly, even though I shouldn't take my anger out on her. Bitterness and hurt had taken over me. "Come on, get ready for school," Mom urged, rubbing my back, trying to calm me. I noticed a familiar face. "Jadine. Jadine," I called. She turned with a big smile and ran to hug me. I needed that hug. I might hate one Daniels family member, but I still loved Jade. I heard what Ace did. "Are you okay?" Her eyes were full of worry. A lump formed in my throat. I just nodded. "Why do you look so hot today?" she teased, stepping back. I bit my lip and pulled her to the nearest girl's bathroom. I peeked inside to make sure we were alone. "I guess I just want to see his reaction," I said. Jadine was quiet for a moment, then put on a thoughtful face. "I haven't seen Ace since yesterday. How about we hire someone to pretend to be your new love interest and see how Ace reacts?" Her face lit up with pride at her idea. "Maybe," I smiled, already picturing it. "But still, I have a feeling Ace doesn't like Cassidy at all," she muttered. But I was too lost in thought to catch it all. I stepped out of the bathroom, a smirk forming on my lips. "If you like playing games, then let's play a game, Ace." Chapter 16. Abrielle. "I'll be here in 10, Jade smirked, setting her phone down. "Who?" I asked, dumbfounded. "Your new hot model love interest," she grinned. "Right," I muttered as we waited on the park bench near school. We'd already talked through every possible outcome. Deep down, my heart still hoped he would care. A honk nearby pulled my attention, and my eyes landed on an absolutely gorgeous guy. I swore I'd seen him somewhere before, but couldn't place it. He walked over like he belonged on a runway. Black hair, stunning green eyes, light stubble that made him look effortlessly attractive, and a tall, lean build. I could see the outline of abs beneath his white t-shirt. Definitely a few years older than us. Jade hugged him, then turned to introduce us. "Abrielle, this is Jace." "Jace, me Abrielle." Jace took my hand and gently kissed it. I smiled, but inwardly sighed remembering how Ace used to touch me. His kisses, his closeness. No, Abrielle. Focus on the plan. Jadine told me what Ace did. Are you all right? Jace asked with genuine concern. I gave him a soft, sad smile and nodded. That's why I want to do this. That's why I'm here, he replied warmly. The next day, Jade had asked her mom if I could still get help with modeling. Mrs. Daniels didn't hesitate. She booked me a debut photo shoot with a popular brand. I couldn't contain my excitement. I'd always dreamed of modeling, even practiced poses at home, hoping someone would discover me. Jace was doing the shoot with me, and Jade had made sure Ace would be there too. Apparently, Jace and Ace already knew each other. I couldn't wait to see his reaction. I sat waiting in the living room for Jade to pick me up. My nerves so tense, I could hear the ticking of the antique wall clock. Then a honk broke my trance. It wasn't Jade, but Jace. Hey, he smiled, stepping out of his sleek, expensive car. Jade asked me to come get you. She said it'd look more real if we arrived together. I see, I replied, smiling. Thanks for doing this. No problem. You really like him, don't you? He asked, holding the car door open. I didn't answer, just blushed like an idiot. This was it. I could do this. Let him see what he lost. We arrived at the shoot location, and I swallowed hard, nerves bubbling in my stomach. Ready? Jace asked, extending his hand. I hesitated, then placed mine in his. We walked in together, pretending to laugh at something funny. I spotted Ace almost instantly. My heart raced when I saw his expression, anger mixed with hurt. My smile faltered. My chest tightened. I hadn't seen him since the rehearsal dinner. Hey, Ace, Jace started, but Ace stormed over and yanked me away from him. My heart pounded, unsure what was happening as Ace dragged me into the large hallway and then let me go. He didn't speak for a moment, and the silence crushed me. His hands were clenched, veins visible, like he was barely holding himself together. Have you moved on already? He asked finally. I bit my lip. Yes, I stuttered. His expression shifted, softening just slightly. Elle, please don't do this to me, he said, meeting my gaze. Don't do what? I haven't done anything to you, I snapped, voice rising. Why won't you just listen to me? He shouted back. Why? Because your lies worked every time I did. My voice broke. A tear escaped, and I couldn't stop it. You actually had me falling for you. His tone lowered. Eyes sincere. If you don't listen, how will you know the truth? I'm falling for you too. Lies, I whispered. No. When Cassidy pulled me into that hallway, I didn't expect her to kiss me. You ran away before I could even explain. I meant what I said. Whatever magic you have, it's real. You've got me. And if you walk away from me now, I don't know what I'll do. His voice trembled with sincerity. Those blue eyes, I hated that I still believed them. He gently reached out, brushing a tear from my cheek with his thumb. I said nothing, but I knew he could see the truth in my eyes. He turned and began to walk away. And all I could think was, I believe him. And this time, I trust him. Chapter 17. Abrielle Ace. It was painful, sitting in the lunchroom, watching Cassidy laugh like nothing happened. Word had spread that Ace shoved her away when she tried to kiss him again in the hallway. And yet she still laughed like she'd won something. But I knew better. Ace still liked me, and I'd get him back. I wouldn't let my doubt sabotage us again. I grabbed my water bottle and stood up. Where are you going? Jade asked mid-bite. I gave her a sly smile over my shoulder. She knew something was about to go down. I walked straight toward Cassidy's table with a sugary sweet smile. Her plastic crew eyed me like I didn't belong. Before she could say a word, I dumped the entire bottle of water over her head. What the heck? She screeched loud enough to crack glass. The cafeteria erupted into laughter. Some clapped. I didn't say a word. I just turned and walked out. Her shrieks echoed behind me. I'm going to get you back. Yeah. You already ruined my wedding. I was still smiling as I stepped into the hallway. But I wasn't done yet. Later that evening, Jade and I sat midway up the stadium bleachers, ready for Ace's home game. "Give me the sign," I whispered. "Are you sure?" she asked. I nodded. My heart pounded as I watched Ace bark orders on the field. When had he become so confident, so commanding? The whistle blew. Game time. As the players assembled, Jade and I stood up and screamed his name while lifting the sign. He turned immediately. His eyes found mine, and that smile, his smile, took all the weight off my shoulders. For the first time in days, I squealed like a full-on fangirl. The game started, and Ace was unstoppable, sharp, quick, and graceful. Within a minute, he scored. Jade and I screamed, lifting our sign again. He winked at me. When the second half began, rain started to fall. I didn't care. My eyes were fixed on Ace. The score was tied. Just 2 minutes left. "I believe in you, Ace," I screamed, loud and clear. Others started cheering too. And then the whistle blew, but not for the end of the game. Ace had scored the winning goal. Our school erupted in cheers. I bolted from the bleachers toward the field. He met me halfway. I flung myself into his arms, legs around his waist, arms around his neck. "I'm sorry. I didn't listen to you," I cried, tears blending with the rain. He held me tighter. I looked into his eyes, and then we kissed. In the middle of the field, in front of everyone. Fireworks exploded in my chest. I didn't care who was watching. But just as I melted into the moment, Ace swung me behind him protectively. Of course, it was Cassidy. Cassidy came at Ace, smacking his chest like a madwoman. "I can't believe you picked her, that tramp, over me," she shrieked. Ace stayed calm but firm. "Do you hear yourself?" I rubbed his back, trying to calm him. "You mess around with my best friend, then act like I belong to you?" he snapped. I gasped softly. Back at the carnival, I remembered how Ace had been watching Justin and me. What I didn't know then was that Cassidy and Justin had hooked up the night before. Ace had tried to make Justin jealous, but realized afterward he didn't want games. He wanted me. Cassidy, however, wasn't ready to let go. "She's a gold-digging nobody. You and I are rich. We make sense." "Why her?" Cassidy raged. I stepped in front of Ace and without hesitation slapped her across the face. "Think before you speak, because someday you'll regret your words," I said through clenched teeth. My voice softened just a bit. "I'm sure someone will love you, but it's not him." Cassidy screamed, shoved me into Ace, and stormed off the field. The crowd cheered like it was the climax of a teen drama. I turned back to Ace. His arms wrapped around me again, and with a radiant smile, I pressed my lips to his. Right there, soaked in rain, surrounded by cheers, I wished he'd stay with me, forever. Chapter 18. Abrielle. Ace held my hand tightly as we laughed down the hallway. Everything was back to normal. I'd moved back in with Ace, and this time it was going to last. The wedding was off. I'd completed my part of the agreement, and honestly, I was perfectly happy just dating him. He asked me to be his girlfriend the old-fashioned way. It was sweet, especially coming from someone as cocky as Ace, who stammered adorably while asking me out. He even brought flowers. It's been a couple weeks now. Modeling is going great. I'm becoming known, so much so that I get recognized in public and asked for autographs. Not everyone was supportive, though, especially Ace's little fan club. "So how about a barbecue this Saturday? To make it up to our guests?" Ace asked, cornering me against the wall with his arms. "Sounds good," I smiled, inhaling the warm, woodsy scent that always surrounded him. My arms wrapped around his neck, while his held firm around my waist. We stayed like that often these days, and I loved it. I could relive these soft, quiet moments forever. Then someone cleared their throat. We stepped slightly apart and spotted Jade standing there, arms crossed in dramatic disapproval. I was actually excited about you getting married, but this is too mushy, she joked with a fake glare. You want love too? I teased, slipping away from Ace to pull Jade into a hug. She wriggled dramatically. I pulled back and gave her my sweetest smile. She just rolled her eyes. Go back to your romance fest, she laughed, walking away. Now, where were we? Ace murmured, leaning back toward me, until the bell rang. Lunch was awkward. Jade and I had started sitting with Ace and his friends now, but Justin wouldn't stop staring at me. I nibbled quietly on a piece of chocolate, pretending I didn't notice. What's up with Justin? Jade asked under her breath. I shrugged, eyes focused on the corner of the lunch table. Ever since Ace and I made up, Justin had been weird. Ace even told me about Justin's own past with the girls. Still, I felt a little uncomfortable under his gaze. Suddenly, warm lips brushed against my cheek. Ace. I looked up and blushed as he gave me that crooked grin. His friends hooted. I didn't hide my reaction. I was used to his affection by now. When are you two getting married? Gavin teased, chewing a massive bite of sandwich. That's going to have to wait, Ace replied smoothly. We both smiled. It was true. For now, being together was enough. And maybe one day, after school, I waited for Ace to finish soccer practice. I was excited. We were going to Tennessee together for nationals. I wouldn't get to see him much while we were there since he'd be training, but just being around him was enough. Soccer wasn't even Ace's future. His real path was the hotel business, which he'd take over at 21. Mr. Daniels would remain chairman, but Ace would become CEO. It was a huge step. Maybe it meant less time together, but I knew we'd find a way. The sky was blanketed in clouds. I looked up, trying to find shapes in them. A bow, a daisy. As I sat there, voices echoed above me. I turned and squinted. Cassidy and her posse. I froze. I hadn't seen her since the soccer game. As she walked past, she surprised me with a soft, genuine smile. What now? What kind of scheme was this? She sat one chair away and fiddled with the hem of her denim skirt. Then she spoke, voice shaky. I don't usually say this, but I'm sorry. Her eyes stayed on the floor. Right. If she couldn't even look me in the eye, how could I believe her? Still I stayed silent, letting her fidget through her nerves. I'll believe you if you can say it to my face, I replied calmly. She slowly turned her head until our eyes met. For a second, time stopped. I said I'm sorry, I mean it. I was a possessive freak. For once, something I wanted was taken from me. I've been going to therapy. It's helping. This time her voice was clear, honest. I was stunned. And maybe I believed her. A little, enough to respond. I forgive you, I said. She blinked, clearly surprised. Really? Her voice was softer than I'd ever heard it. Gone was the sharp-edged girl I used to know. Instead, she seemed open, maybe even kind. She stood and extended her hand. Without hesitation, I shook it. Maybe one day we'll be friends, she said with a hopeful smile. Maybe. She probably knew I wouldn't fully trust her yet, but I appreciated her trying. Later, I spotted Cassidy talking to Ace, probably apologizing to him too. I wasn't the only one watching, though. You really like him, don't you? A familiar voice said beside me, Justin. A lot, I answered honestly. Then don't break his heart, he said, voice serious. He's hooked on you. And as his best friend, I just hope you know that. I nodded. I wouldn't even dream of it. That evening, I curled up next to Ace on the couch. We were rewatching a movie we didn't pay attention to the first time. What was Justin talking to you about? He asked. He asked if I really liked you, I replied, tossing popcorn into the air. It landed on his shirt. I giggled and popped it into my mouth, missing completely. What did you say? He grinned, raising a brow. Eh? I teased, tossing another piece. It bounced off my cheek. Ace gasped dramatically, pressing a hand to his chest. Then he lunged and tickled me mercilessly. Popcorn went flying as I screamed in laughter. Stop, stop, I cried, squirming under his grip. Tell me, he demanded. pulling me into his lap. "Okay, I told him I like you a lot," I whispered, brushing my lips near his teasingly. And as always, Ace leaned in and kissed me. His lips, his touch, the way our kiss deepened, it made my heart flutter every time. And I knew I loved everything about it. Chapter 19, Abrielle. It was finally Saturday, and I was doing the last-minute preparations for the barbecue while Ace set up the backyard. Living near the lake made everything feel more exciting, more alive. As I dumped a large bag of potato chips into a bowl, the doorbell rang out its chime. "I'll get it," Maria, one of the new housekeepers, called out, dropping a barbecue skewer and rushing to answer it. "Acey," came the high-pitched squeal of Giselle, Ace's little sister, as her tiny voice echoed through the house. I wiped my hands and walked into the living room, just in time to see Ace's whole family arriving. "It looks way better than the last time I was here," Jade chuckled under her breath, and I couldn't help but remember the chaotic scene of bridesmaids and groomsmen flopped all over the living room furniture during the wedding fiasco. "Ellie," Giselle sprinted toward me and jumped into my arms. "How are you?" I grinned at her bright, cheerful face. "Good," she beamed, then kissed me on the cheek with a little giggle. "Elle," Ace's voice called from the other room. "In the living room," I shouted back. Mr. and Mrs. Daniels shared a mysterious chuckle between them, which earned a puzzled look from me. They just kept smiling. Ace walked in, and Giselle wriggled out of my arms to leap into his. There was something so heart-melting about seeing Ace with her. "Is there anything I can help with, sweetie?" Mrs. Daniels asked, adjusting her skirt as she stepped forward. "Actually, yes. We just need to bring the food to the backyard," I said, leading her into the kitchen. "Are you two getting along?" she asked as she helped with the trays. I felt my cheeks warm. "We're great. I really like him, ... "That's wonderful to hear, dear. I don't have to worry because he has you," she replied warmly. She told me how she and Mr. Daniels married young, at just 18, and here I was, not even making it to a wedding, and still feeling like I'd found something real. After all we'd gone through, Ace and I had grown so close. Every argument, every kiss, every confession, it was all worth it. Everyone was here now. Ace's family and mine, our friends, all gathered in the backyard. I'd already met most of them before. His grandparents, Hector and Sally, Grandma Teresa, his cousins, especially the flirty ones. "Since you both aren't likely to get married, I'll be waiting for you," Ace's little cousin Gloria announced loudly. I choked on my drink, coughing and laughing at the same time. Ace patted my back while laughing with me. Gloria looked confused, clearly unaware of what she was implying. "Kids, honestly. Damn, we really have no chance," sighed Michael, one of Ace's second cousins, standing beside Jake and Dawn. "In your dreams," Ace shot back, his arm pulling me closer to his side. "Yes, in my dreams," Michael replied with a goofy grin, earning himself a playful punch from Ace. Suddenly, cold water splashed down my back, soaking my tank top. I turned and spotted a gang of little kids armed with squirt guns. "You guys better run," I shouted, chasing after them. Laughter exploded around the yard as I grabbed my little sister Jazzy and gave her a big sloppy kiss on the cheek. She squealed with laughter. "You're going swimming with me," I teased. No, she laughed, squirming in my arms. I peeled off my soaked tank top, revealing my solid purple bikini top, and stepped into the shallow part of the lake with Jancy. Smooth cobblestones pressed under my feet as I placed her in front of me. She splashed me and then fell on her bottom with a surprised squeak. Before she could cry, the other kids joined in, ganging up on me with tiny, determined splashes. Just as I was regaining my balance, a pair of strong arms lifted me off the ground, bridal style. "What are you doing?" I looked up into Ace's mischievous grin as he carried me toward the pier. I saw our friends, Mackenzie, Aaron, Jamie, Scarlett, Candace, and Jade, watching and laughing. "Help!" I cried dramatically, but no one moved to stop him. "You're going swimming," Ace said with a wicked chuckle. He was ready to throw me in, but I held on tight. "Only if you go with me," I grinned, pouting with my best puppy dog eyes. "I'm not falling for that," he smirked, trying to peel me off him. To our surprise, we both lost balance and fell into the lake together. As we surfaced, I saw Jade laughing from the dock. "That wasn't supposed to happen," Ace sputtered, but I just laughed harder. More screams erupted as all our friends jumped into the water after us. It was perfect. Chaotic, joyful, unforgettable. I cherished moments like this. Being surrounded by people who loved us, who cared. It meant everything. Later that evening, as we dried off and gathered on the large wooden deck, Mr. Daniels raised his glass. "Here's to Ace and Abrielle. We couldn't make it to the wedding, but maybe we'll get there one day." I blushed so hard I nearly sank under the table. Everyone clapped and smiled. Dinner was served. Would we still be bridesmaids? Candace teased, sipping her water. "Sure," I replied sheepishly. "She's blushing," Erin squealed, which made everyone laugh again. "Shut up." I nudged her playfully, my face probably tomatoed by now. The evening was warm, joyful, filled with food and laughter. It truly felt like family. Ace's family treated me like one of their own. And deep down, I knew we were building something real, something lasting. With them by our side, the future already looked beautiful. Chapter 20, Abrielle. "My baby is going to graduate." Mom pulled me into a bear hug, nearly suffocating me with love and limited oxygen. "Mom," I groaned, trying to wiggle free. She finally let go when she noticed my flailing. "Sorry, honey. Do you have your speech memorized?" she asked, resting her hands gently on my shoulders. I nodded with a nervous smile. I was this year's valedictorian, beating Ace by just a quarter GPA point. If it hadn't been for that, he would have been the one giving the speech. "Make sure you don't trip going up the stairs," Dad teased while rocking a sleeping Jazzy in his arms. "Thanks, Dad," I replied sarcastically, though his comment made me worry for real. What if I actually did trip? An arm wrapped around my waist. It was Ace, looking effortlessly handsome in his blue graduation gown and cap. His family followed behind, and we all began chatting and laughing together. Soon after, I was sitting on stage with the staff, the student council president, and the superintendent as Mr. Fetcher stepped up to the podium. "Please welcome our 2011 valedictorian, Abrielle Caldwell," he announced. Thunderous applause filled the gym. I stood, walked toward the podium, and looked out over the crowd. My heart beat wildly as I fought off the fear of public speaking. These people had judged me in the beginning of the year, and now they were cheering. I found Ace in the crowd, beaming at me with the biggest smile. My parents gave me a thumbs up, and Dad aimed the camera. "Thank you, Mr. Fetcher, for letting me speak today, and thanks to the class of 2011 for not protesting. Seriously," I began, sprinkling in humor that made everyone chuckle. "I sat for hours yesterday trying to figure out what to say, drifting in and out of consciousness. Like that guy." I pointed to a student half asleep, earning louder laughter. But the truth is, starting today, we begin meeting our adult selves. And let me reassure you, it's not easy. I took a breath, made eye contact with the audience, then let my gaze settle on Ace. We might not remember every face here today, but who knows, you might end up marrying someone you went to high school with. The speech continued, and by the end, the gym exploded with cheers and applause. As the ceremony ended, blue caps soared into the air like a burst of freedom. Ace wrapped his arms around me and spun me in a circle, laughing as I clung to him. "So what now?" he asked. I rolled my eyes at the question, but deep down I knew it was important. I decided to keep pursuing modeling. It was still new, but I enjoyed it, and it meant I didn't have to struggle too hard in life. "I'm going to be by your side," I smiled, wrapping my arms around him before kissing him softly. A cool summer breeze swept over us. The water glittered under the fading sun as it rippled gently around the yacht. We were having our graduation party on Ace's family yacht. I took another sip from the beer in my hand, letting my thoughts wander. "Don't drink too much. You don't want to get drunk," Ace said, leaning against the railing beside me. "It's only my first beer tonight," I replied innocently. "I kind of wonder what you're like when you're drunk," he teased, raising an eyebrow. 30 minutes later, Ace, I love you. I freaking love you. You know that, right? Like this much. I slurred, arms spread wide. I'm not Ace, Jade giggled, clearly amused. You're not? I gasped, dramatically recoiling, and she burst into louder laughter. Swaying unsteadily, I stumbled toward the dance floor, yelling Ace's name. A strong hand caught me by the arm. I looked up. Ace. I turn around for 1 second to check on guests, and you're already drunk? He asked, guiding me into the yacht. I only had 2, I promise. I giggled, tripping onto the soft carpet like a total idiot. Ace scooped me up again and placed me on the leather couch. Who are you? I slurred, tilting my head back dramatically, then looking at him again. Ace, I'm kinda scared to take care of someone like you when you're drunk, he said with a sigh. Why don't you take care of me on the bed? I whispered, pulling him by the collar until he leaned over me. As much as I want to, you're drunk, he said, trying to stay serious. But why? Don't you want me? Don't you love me? I asked, pouting. Yes, I love you, he whispered, but before I could respond, everything went black as sleep pulled me under. The next morning, the sun blinded me the moment I opened my eyes. I groaned and shut them immediately. My head throbbed like a marching band had moved in. Someone was lying beside me. I turned, and there was Ace, peacefully sleeping. I loved waking up next to him. Another wave of pain pulsed through my skull, and I winced. Ace stirred beside me and sat up with a sleepy sigh. Hurts, doesn't it? I remember the bachelorette party. This is karma, I muttered, covering my forehead. Drink some water, he said, walking toward the bathroom in just his boxers. Something felt off. I sat beside Ace on the couch later that day, munching popcorn while we watched Transformers, but he hadn't said much. Not during the movie, not all day. His arm rested along the back of the couch, and I leaned my head against it, staring at the ceiling, growing more restless by the minute. I let out a groan, trying to get his attention. Nothing. I tried again, louder this time. Finally, Ace blinked out of his daze and turned toward me. Tired? He asked, his voice empty. I frowned and turned my head the other way, crossing my arms. What was he thinking about? What's wrong? He finally asked, the worry in his voice soft but noticeable. I should be asking you that, I replied, meeting his gaze. What do you mean? He asked, as if clueless. You've been thinking all day. What is it? He blinked twice. Yeah, I have, but I don't think it's the right time to say it. Now I was the one holding my breath. What was he going to say? Was it serious? Was he thinking of proposing? Please tell me, I whispered, my curiosity overpowering my nerves. Ace adjusted himself so he was fully facing me. You know what you told me yesterday? I shook my head. Anything could have come out of my mouth last night. You told me you loved me, and I don't know if it was real or just drunk talk, he said carefully. I gasped internally, but he was right. I did say it, and I meant it. I do love you, I said honestly, taking his hands into mine. A smile lit up his face as he leaned in and kissed me, soft and full of emotion. He pulled back just enough to look into my eyes. I love you too, Elle, he whispered. Epilogue, 3 years later. Abrielle. What's more romantic than spending time with the one you love in Paris? This city radiated an aura of enchantment words could never fully capture. It was captivating, dreamy, and brimming with romance like nowhere else. Ready to go? Came the voice of the man I truly love from behind. I turned to see Ace adjusting the button on his sleeve in the sitting area of our flat. You're asking me when you're not even ready yourself? I teased, stepping in from the French-style balcony and fixing his tie. We were going on our first real Parisian date, but he refused to tell me where. After finishing his tie, I wrapped my arms around his neck, gazing into those same gorgeous blue eyes I'd loved for years. Don't you look handsome as always? I smiled. I know, he smirked arrogantly, like the first time we met. But today's all about you. Let's get going. Cliché, but I loved it. I blushed, still smiling like I always did around him. You're really not going to tell me? I asked as we exited the luxury apartment lobby into the perfect evening breeze. Nope, he replied with a sly grin. We weren't taking a car. He said it wasn't far. And honestly, walking through the city was a dream. The Jacques Roueff fountain glistened under the lights, its statues spouting water into a glowing pool. Couples wandered around, laughing and kissing, and I held Ace's arm tighter, resting my head on his shoulder. We were here for Fashion Week, and I'd been modeling for Dolce & Gabbana. Fame kept me traveling nonstop. But when I finally got a break, this time with Ace was everything. "Look," Ace said. And when I looked up, the Eiffel Tower rose before us. I'd never seen it this close. Excitement bubbled in my chest as we crossed the green lawn, surrounded by locals and tourists lounging in the grass. At the base of the tower stood a private elevator, clearly reserved. "Close your eyes," he whispered, placing his hands on my bare shoulders and gently guiding me inside. When it stopped, he said, "Open your eyes." And as I did, the doors parted to reveal something that made me gasp. "Welcome to Le Jules Verne." I was speechless. The restaurant's elegance, the soft lighting, and the breathtaking view of Paris below took my breath away. A host guided us to a window seat. Ace pulled out my chair like a gentleman. "What do you think?" he asked, already knowing the answer. "It's amazing," I smiled, then whispered, "But isn't this going to cost a lot?" He raised an eyebrow, amused. "Babe, you're really asking that? Aren't you such a romantic?" I laughed, and the French waiter arrived. "Que voulez-vous boire?" he asked, glancing between us. My French ended at bonjour, but Ace, being his smooth, intelligent self, responded, "Le vin blanc serait parfait." "S'il vous plaît, attendez une minute, monsieur." The waiter bowed and left. I blinked, stunned. "You have to teach me French someday," I grinned. He just chuckled as the waiter returned with 2 glasses of white wine. "Did you order for me too?" I asked, resting my elbow on the table. "Yeah, I did. They have seafood." My favorite. When the silver cart rolled up with our food, I was thrilled. "Crevettes grillées impériales," the waiter said, placing grilled prawns in front of me. "Filet de bar," he added for Ace. The aroma was mouth-watering. I immediately dug in as Ace watched, amused. "How is it?" he asked. I stabbed a prawn with my fork and held it up to him. He happily accepted it. Then he did the same, feeding me from his plate, and I swear my taste buds threw a party. We sipped wine, sharing glances and small laughs as the waiter returned with more courses. Then came dessert. Ice cream, my all-time favorite, hazelnut with chocolate pralines. As I looked down, I noticed something written in a circle on the plate. Turning it around, I slowly read the words, "Will you marry me?" My eyes shot up. Ace was kneeling, holding a velvet box with a ring that sparkled under the restaurant lights. He gave the most heartfelt, beautiful speech, full of love, and a few jokes that made me laugh through my tears. "Will you be my Mrs. Daniels?" he asked. Joyful tears ran down my face as I covered my mouth. Someone was filming. Others were watching, and I couldn't care less. 3 years of being with Ace, falling for him deeper every day, getting proposed to in Paris, at the Eiffel Tower, with hazelnut ice cream? Why the hell would I say no? "Yes!" I shouted, throwing myself into his arms while he was still kneeling. He stood and slid the sparkling diamond onto my finger as the restaurant burst into applause. Just then, fireworks lit up the sky through the windows. Ace met my eyes and nodded, already knowing what I was thinking. He led me to the top of the Eiffel Tower, where we watched the sky explode with color. "I love you, Elle," he whispered, holding me close. "I love you so much more," I smiled, and we kissed under the Parisian stars. I would be forever with Mr. Arrogant.